We're going to get started. Again, welcome on this lovely morning. I know it was a little hot waiting outside. I apologize, but I'm glad you've all made it in. I am Liz Sunderman-Zinger, and for those of you who do not know, I use she, them pronouns. I'm about 5'8", I have brown curly hair, and am a white lady. So in addition to those things, I'm the chief of the central library here, this building where we are all today. And some of you may not know that this library and our staff also serves as the State Library Resource Center. So as important as this work is to the city of Baltimore, know that by holding exhibits and interacting with our staff here, you are also on a statewide stage. So you have further reach than perhaps you even know. I am personally delighted that we've been able to work with you all to make this happen. Accessibility to resources, education, and culture is at the core of what Pratt is. And I'm really glad that you're able to utilize our spaces, our building, and our staff to provide access and education to cultural events such as this. I know that tomorrow is the 3rd annual Disability Arts Fest, and I'm so excited that this is just an ongoing thing. It's great when we do something once, but it's so much more exciting when it becomes an annual thing and it just grows and snowballs. And I know that this is the first convening of this particular group of organizations and people. And I really appreciate how difficult it can be to have people from disparate organizations and volunteers across groups to coordinate them all. So great job, everyone who worked on that, and thank you all so much for being here today. If you need anything while you are here, please ask. We will have identified volunteers that you will meet and be able to ask, but also really just anyone who works here is able to help you. If you're able to see the red lanyards people are wearing or the security staff, we're happy to help. But if not, everyone is happy to help you. Just ask. I want to give special thanks to Maddie McCauley, Allie Smith, our AV department, and our events team for helping bring all of this together. Thank you. And thanks again for being here and for all the work that you do. I hope you have a wonderful day here at the Pratt. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Should I just start?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And we can just pass it down.
Yeah.
Okay, hi. I'm Alex Veloso. I am a white transgender person with in kind of all gray and black right now, and long brown hair with short hair in the front. So I come to this work. We're here to introduce Baltimore City of Accessible Arts, and which is also called BCAA. I'm one part of the leadership team, and I come to this work as a disabled artist and an educator. And I come to this work with the disabled experience of being chronically ill, and many parts of our leadership team embody different experiences inside of disability and inside of identity. And so that's something that's important to us, and one of the reasons we're disclosing. Yeah, I'm gonna pass it to Marguerite.
Okay. So
You got
I
it.
need to reach out.
Yeah, you're good. You don't even have to pick it up.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. So I am Marguerite Woods. I am a Black woman. I'm also bald, and I'm blind. I'm about 5'7" and a quarter. And oh my goodness, I'm wearing some earrings and glasses. Even though I can't see, I still like glasses. I have on a slack set that's, I think it's a sandy color, and very comfortable sandals. And I'm carrying my straight white cane, which is a symbol of blindness. And I'm proud to say that I am blind because it's okay to be blind. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I come to this work in a very interesting way. I became blind as an adult. And as you can imagine, losing my sight was devastating for me. And there was a time when I had to actually make a decision about whether or not I wanted to live as a blind person. And I discovered art. And I can tell you that art helped save my life. I put my hands in the clay and something happened. And it opened up beauty and magic for me, which is still happening today. And that brings me here to Baltimore, the city of accessible arts. And Baltimore is my hometown. It means a lot to me, and I'm very happy to be a part of this process. I'm going to pass it off to Pat.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Pat Halley, an older adult white woman with big fluffy white hair, wearing glasses and hearing aids that have helped me with a lifelong hearing loss. I'm wearing a brightly colored scarf and colorful shirt and black pants. And what a breath of fresh air to be with all of you here today. These are challenging times, loaded with government policies poised to hurt so many of us, especially Black, brown, and disabled people. We stand with dedicated, courageous fighters for disability justice and racial justice, who over many decades worked together to resist and to build communities of care, kindness, support, and love. That's what we're doing here today, and we commit to looking out for each other. Here's our story. The Baltimore City for Accessible Arts originated from the Elizabeth Talford Scott Community Initiative, led by curator George Sissel, that featured exhibitions of Scott's artwork, all centered on accessible design, planned and executed by MICA students and gallery curators and staff in 9 sites across Baltimore City. At its conclusion 1 year ago, 6 participating museums, Reginald F. Lewis, the Peel, the Walters, Maryland Center for History and Culture, Baltimore Museum of Art, and the James E. Lewis Museum, committed to continue working together to build capacity for accessible exhibitions and public events. Groundbreaking and essential to the community initiative were disabled consultants who were paid to visit each show and give feedback to curators about access. The disability consultants continue to have an important role in our project. Consultants, past and present, will you stand if you can, or wave, or make a noise so we can thank and acknowledge your important part in this project? Margaret Reichert, Roxanne Griffin, Tyrone Whedon, on Zoom is Kate Brooks, and Marguerite Woods and Alex are part of this leadership team and served originally as consultants. Thank you so much and enjoy the day.
Okay, we're gonna take a tiny tech moment. On.
It's images, isn't it?
It's okay. It just needed to be a slideshow. I'm going to work on it during the film and maybe get help from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, so this is Alex speaking again. And we just want to start with a few notes on the access that's available and also some access asks because this is a cross-disabled space. Oh, thanks for asking. Can y'all see? I can't see the screen. Are things visible? Okay, great. So on the screen right now, there's a slide talking about our access notes for the public convening. So some asks that we have is when you speak, please start by saying your name for people. This helps folks more easily track the conversation, especially low vision folks. Please visually describe yourself, including identity context cues, right at the beginning of speaking, and all of our speakers are going to model that. Please feel invited to make sounds of affirmation, claps, whooping, etc., not just nods and thumbs up, because then more folks can actually be gauging the temperature in the room. So let's just start with that. Can we go? Hell yeah. Awesome. Okay. ASL is provided, and we're also keeping sight lines for folks that are using ASL to interpret. If you are speaking to a deaf person with interpreter support, speak to the deaf individual, not the interpreter. That's part of deaf culture, and that's also it's just much more humanizing. Hearing as flocking, one thing that I ask and I like to hold in my classrooms is if you can't hear someone, if you would please raise your hand and wave. One of the sighted people on leadership team or that's supporting will see you. And if you see a waving hand, if you would just copy, if one of us can't hear, none of us can hear. And that's how we're kind of moving with this. Or if one of us can't take in the information, none of us can take in the information. Okay, we got a lot of access, so we're gonna keep going. Please mask if available. I'm gonna take off, most speakers are gonna take off their masks when speaking. This is also because some people here are relying on lip reading. It's like it shows some of the compromises of a cross-disabled space. So whereas masks really supports the immunocompromised folks in attendance, also taking off masks is sometimes helpful. Please wear a name tag, mostly so that you can socialize and connect with one another. There are printed slides used that are to support low vision folks. They're large. They're also so you can hold them as close to your face. Please feel free to use those. They're on the table. Live captioning is displayed below and also should be dropped in the link in the Zoom. We're so lucky that this is a hybrid presentation and that we've got a lot of folks in Zoom with us. Breaks are noted throughout the program. There is a low sensory chill out room in the PO room on the second floor. If you need to take a break for whatever reason, that is available for you. There are signs leading you there, and there's also live signage. Volunteers, that leads us to our next. Volunteers are providing live signage and visual descriptions during breaks and space transitions. Marguerite did an incredible job training a lot of folks on how to provide that support. And so that's going to be all around. If you have an unmet access need, please ask any of BCA team or library support staff. And then just so everyone in the room knows or in person knows, there's a bunch of different program formats for increased access. There's Braille embossed program. There's a tactile QR code out there to attach to a screen reader accessible program. There's also a large text program. Okay, that's what we got. That was long. If you need to access the digital screen reader program, that is on the screen right now. Okay, great. We introduced ourselves. The next thing is the mission. Let's just do it. I was gonna say we're a little tight on time, but let's just do it. Yeah? Okay. All right. So you're gonna hear a little bit more of my voice. We wanted to share our mission statement with you. This is what we've been building and growing this project together on. So Baltimore, the City of Accessible Arts, is a grant and donation funded project whose goal is to transform Baltimore to become the City of Accessible Arts. Essential to this Baltimore-based project is the creative leadership of disabled artists in close collaboration with museums, galleries, art spaces, and Baltimore organizations of disabled adults and youth. Monthly convenings with partners across Baltimore has served to build relationships and conversations, allowing us to discover the interest, voices, and demand for accessible practices, and to make sure we're being responsive to actually a local and community need. These are our following commitments. Pay and center disabled Baltimoreans for their expertise and experience. Like getting in the logistics, pay disabled people when you're working with them. Build empowering, yeah, love it. Build empowering relationships between disabled people and art spaces. Cross-disability space means discovering and collaboratively creating access together. One of the things we talk a lot about is that access can be a creative practice, and that's actually what we want to move towards. And then more access for disabled people is more access for all people. Yeah, right? And we just wanted to say that one together for a second. So could we call and response that one? So more access for disabled people is more access for all people. More access for disabled people is more access for all people. Okay, awesome. Lovely. We are transitioning to an incredible film by Alyscia Cunningham, Seeing Without Sight. So the space is going to transition a little bit to projecting this film. And you're going to get to experience a bunch of access that was built into this, and we're going to chat about it afterwards. Awesome. Okay. Just go.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks everybody for your patience. What an awesome film, Seeing Without Sight. Once again, yeah, absolutely. So I am here as a panelist. I'm Marguerite. I'm going to host this panel today. And Marguerite Woods is my name, and I identify as she, her. And I'm also wanting you to know that I am very much a supporter of the blind and older adults as well. And this film is very important to me in so many ways because of the content, of course, because I am a blind woman, and because of the work that made this such an incredible film and the person who put it together, Alyscia Cunningham, who is a dear, dear friend of mine, and so much more. And because of a very sweet young lady, Meredith Day, who I've known about through the years in the blind movement and the blind community. And so I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about who they are before I get into my questions. Alyscia, you want to go first?
Yes, so I'm very happy to be here. My name is Alyscia Cunningham. I identify as a Trinidad American, a first generation American. I'm a Black woman with big puffy curly hair, dark brown skin, and I have some dangle beaded earrings, blue jeans, and a blue blouse, and I identify as she, her. I am the director, the producer, and the cinematographer of Seeing Without Sight, who I'm really happy to get into the conversation about it, but it was definitely inspired by this amazing woman, Marguerite, and I look forward to talking about it. Yes, thank you.
So my name is Meredith Day. I am a 17-year-old female. I have very light, pale skin with rosy cheeks, blue eyes. I have like dirty blonde hair that currently is wavy. I'm wearing a dress which at the top is cobalt blue. It has a rhinestone belt and the skirt is blue and white swirled together. All of my jewelry is silver, so I have a silver rhinestone headband on. I have silver shoes, a silver heart bracelet on my right hand, and a silver ring with 2 heart gems that are iridescent. And then on my left arm, I have a silver bracelet with the word faith engraved into it.
Nice, awesome.
And cute glitter nail polish too.
Yes,
Love
blue nail polish, and also a silver necklace with a heart on it.
All right. Thank you, Meredith, for that. So I'm going to get right into this. I want, Alyscia, can you talk a little bit about what it meant to you to put this beautiful documentary together?
Yes, well, it meant, so I'm an impact artist as well. And so the work that I produce is really important to me that the audience who watches it, that it creates an impact. And again, I was inspired by Marguerite, who was actually my first film, I'm More Than My Hair, which is stories of interviews of women who have lost their hair due to health-related condition. And Marguerite's explanation of what beauty is to me was so profound. It was, I never thought about it as a sighted woman. So as I was interviewing Marguerite, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a documentary. And that's how it came about. But it was a phenomenal experience because I learned a lot in the process as well. Just as I did with I Am More Than My Hair, some of the stereotypes of those who are not sighted, those with vision impairment, things that I see in movies. It was so to help me to not only inspired me, but it also was a learning lesson. It was a lesson for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Wonderful. So, Meredith, I want to ask you, what did it feel like to be a part of this documentary?
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. So, Alyscia contacted the National Federation of the Blind and asked for people who might be interested. And they reached out to my mom and asked her if I would be interested. And of course, I immediately was like, yeah, I would love to do that. And it was all a very fascinating process. I got interviewed. We got asked for, we being my family, got asked for a bunch of pictures and videos of me. And then I sat for an interview. And all the questions, they were things that I'd always thought, but I guess I never verbalized them. And now I'm very glad that I did, because now not only did I verbalize them, but they're being shared with people around us who don't always understand what blindness is.
Awesome. Very good answer. I love that. Thank you for that, Meredith. Alyscia, back to you. Tell me a little bit about the technique and what you had to do to put this documentary together. What things did you use to make it the product that it is now?
So I did a TEDx talk, just to kind of take a step back a little bit. And the TEDx talk was about to encourage other artists to make their work accessible. That was again inspired by Marguerite, who was the one who introduced me to audio description. And because I've done my first film with audio, include audio description, I've made sure to include each of the films I did afterwards. I do narrative and documentary, so I do horror documentary. But I always make sure to make it accessible. So there's audio description, there's also closed caption. And so I've worked with a group of people, it's called Social Audio Description, and they helped me with each project. So I had to work with the audio describer, narrator, audio describer, writer, the captioner, and I did the DCP on my own. So I learned how to create a DCP with closed audio description. So that means that you might see it on the screen is just the film, but then if you have if the film or the theater has access to the technology with the headphones, then I learned how to create a DCP so that you can put the headphones on and you can hear it. So DCP and audio description and closed caption.
Awesome. Fantastic. Meredith, tell me what accessibility means to you as a blind young lady experiencing all the things that you decide you want to do.
I would say accessibility can be many things. It can be technology that allows my phone and computer to talk to me. It can be specific devices that I need for myself, like my white cane or my personal audiobook reader. Or it could be a simple change in behavior. Someone just describing a picture to me, not sending pictures to group chats, or even just telling me, giving me directions. Like when I'm on stage, I usually don't have my cane with me, so we do things differently. I get told in advance where furniture is for blocking, and I get cued with auditory things instead of visual ones. Accessibility can be as simple as just communicating, hey, there's a couch right there.
Fantastic. And when you think about Baltimore, the city of accessible arts, everything you just said is very important to the process of spaces becoming more accessible to all of us. As Alex talked about earlier, accessibility for one is accessibility for us all. Yeah. And I know that we're having a panel discussion here, but I feel like there are questions out there in the audience. Is there something that you're burning to ask that I have not brought up? Make some noise, I can't see you. Okay, awesome.
Okay. I'm Schroeder Cherry. I'm from Morgan State University, JALMA, the James E. Lewis Museum of Art. My question is for Alyscia. How do you feel about the captioning when you see the words on the screen? How do you feel about them actually matching either the dialogue or just capturing what's going on?
I'm sorry, how do I feel about, I think you're last.
How do you feel about the words that you see on the film as it's interpreting what you have captured on film?
So are you the caption itself, or do you mean when it's the big words that pops up as Janetta was speaking?
The dialogue. For example, if the actor is saying one particular thing, and maybe the captioning doesn't translate word for word, but it captures it like in another way.
So I kind of feel sometimes I think it's different for different people, because I hear different, some people give different feedback about that. For me, I think it's important to include everything. So including when somebody says or hey, what do you call those words when somebody says those? It might not be words, but it's
Emoting.
yes, right. Yeah. So I include that in my films. I think the only thing I don't include that in it, I believe, in is narrative, because I've been told that when it's narrative, sometimes it's best just to, because it's also done in editing, so you kind of just cut it straight to the point with narrative. But with documentary, I like to include I'll include it all. Yeah.
Oh, hey. First of all, Alyscia, that is an absolutely beautiful and very important film.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm curious how widely you have been able to distribute it, and what are your hopes for it? And when was it done? I missed the date.
When is it done?
What's the year?
So I just completed it in February this year. And my hopes for it was to be able to find distribution on a distribution channel. So that could be, HBO, that's Netflix, or Cinemax, even Tubi. But one of the challenges with doing a short is people don't really want to give you the opportunity because they want they want a feature length film. So right now I've submitted to different film festivals. I'm also going to senior centers in my area. I live in Silver Spring, and showing and screening my film and having conversations with the senior center. But other than that, it's just, it's having conversations, so community conversations and film festivals.
Yeah, I just hope you can get it into schools at every level, universities, all public libraries. My heavens, the world needs to see this film.
Thank you. That's actually a good idea. So thank you.
Happy to help.
Okay, I will definitely reach out.
Great.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Eliza. I am a white lady when she's not wearing her clogs is 5'5". I got a couple extra inches today. Brown hair, black top, green pants. Alyscia, you mentioned that you were inspired by Marguerite's definition of beauty to make this film, and I'm wondering if you can share with us what that was or how you remember it.
So I don't remember it word for word, and but I just remember.
Neither do I.
I just remember in that moment when she was speaking about what beauty was to her. I just remember in my head saying, wow, if I was to maybe, what would it be like if I close my eyes? And it's my thought of what it is, and it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. But Marguerite's perspective, as it wasn't a physical thing. I do remember that it wasn't physical, that it is in the emotion, it is in the energy of the person, how they speak to her. That was that it was so profound enough for me in that moment. I was like, I need to make a film. So I think I would like to turn it to Marguerite and say, what is your
I knew you
what's
were gonna
beauty?
do that. Yeah. So I don't remember verbatim what I said, but for me, beauty absolutely is what it feels like, and either what I come across or what's brought to me, or what I decide that I'm going to allow. It's it's vibrational, it's uplifting, and that's what art opens up for me: beauty and magic. And there's so many stories that I can share with you about accepting beauty from that perspective that has allowed my life to unfold in many very dynamic ways, and hopefully making a difference in a positive way as I connect with people. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Okay. My name is Nancy Proctor. I'm from the Peel, Baltimore's Community Museum. And thank you so much for the beautiful film, Alyscia. Just a personal note, I just moved to Baltimore from Silver Spring, and it's great. I highly recommend it. You should come join us. My question is really for the panelists, but also anybody else in the audience who might want to comment, who uses visually described films. I'm curious about how large the catalog is, so to speak, of films that are described. Do you feel like you've got a lot of good choice, or is it still fairly limited in terms of number of films and also quality? And then kind of a follow-on thing, if y'all have time to reflect on it, I'm just fascinated by what the experience is like to how you use those visual descriptions to get us to get, I guess, get a sense of both the narrative and the painting that's being painted by the film.
I would say it can be kind of inconsistent at times, but most things you can find audio described somewhere. Most streaming services have an automatic audio description setting that you can enable, but if the show or movie doesn't have audio description to begin with, then it won't be described for you. One problem that I've come across, some TV shows, one episode will be audio described, the next one won't, and then the one after that will be audio described again. And I'm like, okay, guys. So that happened. When it's there, it's usually very helpful. And I actually know some sighted people who, like, they're fully sighted, 20/20 vision, but they use it because they're like, I understand it way more when it's described to me like that. So when it's there, it's very useful. And most of the time, it is there.
When you go to a movie theater as well, you can ask for a device. A lot of movies nowadays, the audio track to describe is embedded in the movie. And the problem sometimes is that the device isn't properly programmed for you to hear the audio description, because the people doing it don't know the difference between deaf and blindness. And so they'll set it up for a deaf person. So because of all the faux pas, I've learned if I can hear it, the device talking before the movie actually starts, I know that they've set it up for a deaf person. Because when it's set up for the audio description, it doesn't start until the actual movie starts, because it's embedded in the movie. And so if you're going with friends and you didn't know that, and you're sitting in the movie theater, and then when the movie comes on, you're not getting an audio description, then you can't find your way out of the movie, and your friends have to go. So they're missing the movie. So I've gotten a lot of passes for a lot of friends to come back and see the movie.
Me too.
I
have a question from the chat. Could someone repeat the resources that you shared of the names of the groups or organizations you worked with for auditory visual descriptions of the film?
Yes, so it's Social Audio Description Project. That's the name. And that's like I believe the website is socialaudioDescriptionProject.com or SD Social Description Social Audio Description Collective, right? Yeah, Social Audio Description Collective. Thank you. Yes, right. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, they're an amazing
they
group.
work. Yes, they are amazing.
Hello. This is Jen Kotler. Meredith, I have a question for you. I work in science, and I've spoken with several people who, while going through college, were in science degrees, and then it didn't end up being very accessible to them. And some people found ways around them, and some didn't. But anyway, my question for you, you're 16, you don't need to know what you want to do with your life, but do you know what you want to study, and how impactful is your blindness in deciding your career possibilities?
Yes, I definitely know what I want to do. Once I finish my senior year at high school, I'm hoping that I can go to either McDaniel College or Stevenson University to study education for specifically upper elementary school kids, which I think I will be able to do because most of them work with devices, like they have computers. So it shouldn't affect me too much. They can just email me their worksheets and documents, and I can email them. So it won't really impact my career all that much.
Good answer.
Okay, so I know we're out of time though, but I know there's two, Chrissy, okay, all right.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Christina, and this question is for Marguerite. My question for you, Marguerite, is did you find that your faith shifted once you found out that you had lost your vision? Did you become angry with God when this happened to you?
That wasn't the first time I was angry with God. But I will tell you, my faith has exploded, and it's not person-based. It's vibrational. Art, helps me with that as well. It's a connection with a life force that allows so many things, and to be able to see the beauty in what many think is a curse. You'd be amazed at all the people around the world that pray for me because they are sorry for me. And I ask them to please keep their sorries. I don't need them. So as I've begun to accept my blindness, I've expanded my spiritual insights, and it's just allowing me so many things. So thank you for asking that question. But God and I are good.
We do have one last question. Oh, Chrissy, you had your hand up.
Okay, bless. Yeah.
Right here in this room, we have a lot of people that can create change in the world, and right here in Baltimore. Right here in this room, we have a lot of people that have the ability to change the world, as well as to change right here in Baltimore what we, how I think Baltimore affects us. So I would ask Marguerite and Meredith, what right here in Baltimore have you found a positive way that the arts are accessible to you, and one negative way that the arts might be not accessible to you, because people here might be able to create that element of change so that it can improve for all people?
Thank you. That's a loaded question. How much time do I have? Okay, what I'll tell you is my experience, like I said, after I accepted and decided really that I wanted to live as a blind person. I had an opportunity to live in India for a while, and I got exposed to a pottery class, and I got to stick my hands in the clay. And I came back to Baltimore and I looked for a class. And every time I said I'm blind, they would say, "Oh, you really need to call someone else." And I realized that, nobody was ready for me yet. But I knew that at some point it was going to happen, and it did. And I got connected with Baltimore Clayworks. And yeah, absolutely. And I got connected through a community instructor, Salah Jenkins. And I only wanted to stick my hands in the clay. I didn't even want to make anything. I just liked it. And she was like, "Oh no, you're going to make some things." And that took me to having artwork in a gallery where I met George. And what I'm trying to tell you is that the art here in Baltimore has taken me to so many places where I've gotten to ask for what I need, not just for me, but for the community of people with disabilities, in particular low vision and blindness. And it brought me here today to Baltimore, the city of accessible arts. It's a dream, it's a decision, it's a movement to focus on, to be a part of creating. And there's so many people right in this room and elsewhere who are already saying yes to the dream. And so, yeah, while things aren't 100%, they're on the way.
Things aren't perfect, and I speak as someone who doesn't live in Baltimore, but things aren't quite perfect, but we're getting very close. We got people who are definitely very responsive to the needs of blind people, like theaters who respond well to us and help us to get described shows, and places where we can do art, and places where we can just examine different things. Like we're getting close. We just need the communication to express what we need, really.
I want to tell you that Baltimore Clayworks connected with the Library for the Blind, which is right on Park Avenue. Their backyard connects to the backyard here. And so with one pottery class, it's turned into a regular occurrence. And so things are happening because we're out here teaching from our example, if you will, and asking for what we want. And people are responding. If you don't know about something, how can you respond? Just like Alyssia's film, it just opened up a perspective that many people right in this room probably never even thought about. So thank you for that question, Christy.
Amazing. And so with that and that beautiful discussion, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We will see you back at, I believe, 11:45.
Okay.
I'm so glad to hear the conversations kind of come up and go down in these transitions. One of the reasons for this convening is for y'all to connect to each other. And we'll talk more about an access consortium and really what that building, that together and that infrastructure can look like. But right now we have something I'm so excited for, which is Robin Marquis is giving our keynote speech.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, my name is Robin Marquis. I am a white non-binary femme. I've got deep dimples that are usually apparent because I'm almost always smiling or crying, which probably I will do tonight or today. I'm covered in tattoos, and I often have my blue rollator, which is covered in bedazzles as well. I always love to point out. And I just want to start by thanking the organizers for this, especially all the labor that's gone into this that's apparent and not. This is an incredibly accessible event. I have not been to something like this in Baltimore ever, and just want to take a moment to witness, appreciate, and use this as an opportunity to see the ways that we all can be doing this work in our organizations. Like, ask the nerdy questions, ask what's happening behind the scenes, look at all the resource materials, and use this as an example moving forward. So I come to this work as a disabled artist, as a community organizer. I have a physical mobility disability, and I also have pretty socially acceptable mental illness, I will say, and come from a family of, I was raised by parents who also have mental illness, and a long line of disabled family members. And I became disabled later in life, and I think an important thing about that is that became disabled in a community of disabled people in the San Francisco Bay Area who were incredibly welcoming and incredibly supportive and celebratory of my disability. And so my experience with this has always been one of, I've gone through grief, I've gone through a lot of struggle, but I've also had a lot of pride. And that's a lot of what I want to talk about today, is the importance of finding connection and making spaces for disabled people to be in community together with celebration, and for those of us who are allies in the audience, or abled as we love to call you, for you all to find ways to help support that work. So my disability also doesn't impact my speech. I'm hopefully going to be able to get my points across today. It doesn't affect my cognitive capabilities unless I'm in a big pain day. And people do not question my intelligence when they find out I'm disabled. And my disability is quite palatable to people. So I bring that up because disability is a huge umbrella, and there are many of us in the community who are not on the stage or who are not invited to speak in these spaces. And that's one thing I want us all to be working towards, is how can we find ways where, ooh, what a sound. Ways for all disabled folks that can be part of these conversations and be on these stages. And also, my disability has not impacted my ability to have a job in this field. And that's also very critical. A lot of people's disabilities, because of the barriers of inaccessibility, make working within the field of arts and culture very difficult. And another thing that I want us all to be working on. And I've spent a lot of my career, I've obviously been thinking a lot about what I want to say to you all. Many of you I've known for many years. And a lot of the time I get to speak to people, I spend it trying to convince folks to care. And I don't want to do that today. I'm tired of convincing people that we should be in these rooms, that we should be leading these movements, that our experiences are rich, and not just it's the right thing to do, but it's actually the innovative thing to do to have disabled people leading this work. And instead, I think it's going to be much more fun for me to invite you all a little bit into our world and to just share some stories about my experiences with many of the people in this room who are disabled, how we came to this work, how we came together, and do a little story sharing of what it's like to be in disabled-led spaces when disabled folks are telling our own stories, creating our own cultural spaces, doing our own advocacy work. And I'm also going to pause for breathing and water. So part of my story of how I got here today and to be with the Baltimore City of Accessible Arts is I moved here in 2016 to do the MICA Community Arts Program. And while there were lots of things that I loved about MICA and about that community, I was deeply isolated. I had been in a community, as I said, of incredibly radical disabled folks. And when I first moved here, it was incredibly shocking to not have any disability community, be met with a lot of barriers within the cultural and arts sector. And I made a stink about it. I kind of was a little bratty and a little frustrated, which often it's how it is with disability, is getting so frustrated with the spaces and the barriers we come across. But luckily, Baltimore'd, and people very quickly connected me to other folks who cared. I met George Sissel and Nancy Proctor at the Peel, and Pat Halley, who all were ready to start the journey and to say, okay, we don't really know what to do, but we want to do something. We're in a community full of creatives and full of people who deeply care about each other. How do we do this? And the work, Clayworks is going to get another shout out because that's a lot of the ways that we all started working together. And Marguerite was my first disabled friend. So it's just like, whew. Yeah. It's already, whoa, I'm 5 minutes in, I'm crying. But honestly, that's why this is so important to talk about, because when I met Marguerite and we got to have coffee, and it was in the context of Clayworks, and I just felt like we got to breathe together, to sit there and kind of hesitantly learn about each other, about different disabilities, and what our dream could be for literally just an art class at Clayworks, that could be accessible. And through part of our relationship building, we got to spend time together and we got to connect and learn from each other. And we also got to teach people at Clayworks about how to teach an inclusive class, which was amazing. It was an awesome outcome. But I often feel like those things are the things that are talked about, and that behind the scene relational building and the deeper heart work that gets done when we just sit together and listen to each other, especially around a cup of tea in Pat Halley's backyard, which happened many, many times, of just getting together and saying, we want something to change. We want this to look different. And we think that it's possible in this city where we know people really do care. And that has gone on for many, many years, and met many of you along the way, having institutions start showing up and caring and saying and paying attention to what can we do, how can we put resources to this, and how can we be humble enough to learn in the mistakes and really recognize that there are so many barriers. And I just, again, want to name and thank those folks and Alex who stepped in years ago to carry this work on as a disability-led groundswell of bringing people together, and not separated by institution or by the cultural arts or activism or individuals, but really collaborating between all of those three, which I have not seen before in the work that I do across the country with people building more culturally accessible communities. This is incredibly unique what's happening in Baltimore. So I want you all to feel proud, and because there's a lot more work to do, and taking moments like today to celebrate and to really pause and think about where we've come and what's changed is really critical. So, sticky hair. I think, yeah, I'm gonna do a little brain shift because my brain wants it. I wrote a book of poetry because I can do whatever I want, and I want to read some poems. So this is a book called Hardly Creatures. It's by Rob Makasea Colgate, and we can put that in the chat. And if anyone wants that name, I can share it with you later. And Rob is a disabled Bakla Filipino-American poet. And this book of poetry is a collection of poetry that takes the form visually and metaphorically of an accessible art museum. I found it just came out this year, and I have cried every time I've read it because it uses poetry and verse and the written word and graphics to kind of imagine what would an accessible art museum or cultural space look like. So I want to share some more CRIP envisioning and CRIP imagining. So this poem is titled Information, and this is in the part of the book where you're kind of entering the museum, you're getting information about access, you haven't gone into the gallery yet. This is the space. Here is how we learn to belong in it. Relaxed visits. For neurodivergent gallery goers, or those sensitive to sensory output, or those overwhelmingly alive. Relaxed hours. Come as you are, tired or restless or scared of bright lights. Come in the night when you are somehow most awake. Relaxed seating. The colors and shapes will look the same from your bed, from the floor, from the train, or ocean, or heaven. Relaxed tour. Wander through the rooms in any order. You do not have to visit them all or look at every artwork. There is no correct way to move through a house that you live in. Access features. Tactile replicas, alt text, transcriptions, guided tours, sensory rooms, etc., available without request or revelation that you might ever request. Access doula. A care attendant will check in with you about what lies ahead in each wing. You do not need to listen to them. They are only there if you want help with listening to yourself. Content warnings. The attendant will raise their hand during sharper attempts at truth. And then there's a little icon of a hand held up in open palm. Content warnings. The attendant will raise their hand during sharper attempts at truth. You are allowed to reach for it if you would like. Apologies. We are sorry that the fonts are not larger. We are sorry that the page has no texture or sound. We wish the benches were benches instead of poems. We understand if you have to leave, and we'll treasure the absence that remains. Whew. And I love that for a million reasons. And one is in my work with Prime Access Consulting, which is an inclusive design company. We work with mostly cultural institutions around the country and in Canada to make them more accessible to disabled folks. And a lot of it gets really technical. And I find often in this work, we can really hone in on these really specific details, which we do need to talk about. And in the workshops, we talk about them. But in these kind of days of coming together and imagining and getting inspired, use that word very specifically in this moment, but inspired by that creative juice that comes from disabled artists, and that is so critical in this work. And if we're not thinking about, if we're not future thinking from an imaginative place about disability, and not weaving that in, and not weaving in the relational building part, I think we're missing out on it. So now some more story time. I want to talk about the Museum of the Blind People's Movement. So this is an incredible, incredible, incredible thing. The National Federation of the Blind, who has been mentioned here before, and many folks in this room are members of, is a blind-led advocacy organization that is headquartered in Baltimore. And under the leadership of the current president, Mark Riccobono, they really have set out in the last 4-ish years to create a cultural institution led by blind people to elevate authentic blind stories. And because it's Mark who is very wisely keeps telling us that cultural institutions suck for blind people, and often for most disabled people. And what would it be like to create a space, to create a museum that is led by blind people and for everyone, that both challenges expectations about blindness, awakens understanding, sparks action, and shatters barriers, to really build an inclusive museum, which has not been done before. The fact that that's happening here is like, it's happening here, and that is such a gift. It's so mind-blowing, and I'm so excited that this is also happening so that we can all come together and learn from each other and support each other. And the company that I work for, we are brought on to steward this work and the development of the Museum of the Blind People's Movement. So right now we're in the early stages of development, and still lots of imagining happening. But I want to lead you through a hypothetical visitor journey. It's something that we do in the design process where we're kind of thinking about like, okay, what would it be like for a visitor to come here and attend this museum? So I'm going to share that with you. This is not like the actual visitor journey of the Blind People's Museum. I want to give that caveat. Lots is changing, lots is moving, but it is fun to really take a moment to, like this poem does, imagine what it could feel like and what we're working towards. So for the sake of this exercise, you're going to have a large group of friends with various disabilities, and we'd all be so lucky. And I want you can even close your eyes, take a minute. We're going to go on a journey together. So imagine you're at home. A bunch of your friends want to get together and go do something in this beautiful city of Baltimore. And you search on the internet, you go to visitbaltimore.com, and there's an incredible page, which there actually is, about accessible cultural events that can happen, or places that are accessible for people to go to. So you find the Museum of the Blind People's Movement, and it's free. You're like, okay, great, a free activity in your city. All my disabled friends, we might hate this. We really don't usually go to museums, but let's give it a try. So you go to their website. Right away, the website is easy to navigate. The heading structures are simple and clear. There's not a ton of content on the website. You find the museum's open hours right away. And since you've never been to an accessible museum before and you're not used to this, you do a little deep dive into the pages that really lay out what that experience is going to be for you. And you find something called a social story. And this social story, it's written in simple, plain language. There's pictures and visual descriptions of what it's going to be like when you get to the museum, the different galleries. It goes into a nice amount of detail for how you're going to interact with the staff at the front desk. Talks about how to get your ticket and how you're going to get the accessible affordances that you need. You start to get a little overwhelmed because there's a lot of accessibility, and you hope you can learn more when you get on site. So you decide to take the bus with your friends, and it's not in scope to make public transit accessible, but I know people in the room are doing that. So we are working on that, but your friend makes a joke that if they wanted to touch glass all day, they'd stay at home and touch the windows. And you ensure them that this museum, you can touch stuff. Stuff is not behind glass. They're doing things differently. You get to the front entrance, and you're met with subtle audio cues and large banners that welcome you and let you know you've arrived. There is a service animal relief area off to the side, which you note later for your friend who has their service dog with them. And you go to the front desk, and a blind staff member welcomes you and doesn't make assumptions about what you or your friends need, but lets you know that they are there to answer any questions that you may have. And you tell them you want to know everything because you're a nerd and you have a bunch of disabled friends with you and you want to know all the things. So you learn that the museum has American Sign Language, it has visual descriptions, it has audio descriptions, it has guided tactile descriptions, it has captions, it has Braille, and you can touch almost everything. And if you don't touch things, you're going to miss out on the experience. And you're especially excited by the system of tactile wayfinding and navigation, which is a combination of various textured materials on the floors, audio cues, tactile floor markers, full museum handheld tactile maps, and more detailed maps in every gallery that are going to help your friends navigate the space independently. You head to the coat check, where your friend charges their power wheelchair and swaps it for a rollator. There's a sense of excitement and anticipation, and you're surprised that usually by now there would have been at least 1 or 10 barriers or microaggressions, but so far you and your friends are having a great time. And you're still not totally sure how it's going to unfold. You take the elevator up, you go into the lobby area where there's onboarding stations. Since this is a new museum and a new way to experience content, there's a few things that you're going to need to learn how to access in order to make sure you have everything you need. First, you're invited to explore using all your senses. One friend's going to consume the content through the ASL on all the screens. One's going to use their refreshable Braille display, and another chooses to access the content on their phone, read to them by their screen reader. And a side note, nerd moment, this way of interacting, being able to receive all the same information at the same time through different sensory inputs, is called multimodal design, which is different than a multi-sensory experience, which just means all your senses are activated at the same time. This really allows people with disabilities and folks who want to engage with content from various ways to do it together and to not create segregated experiences. And you learn that the way you're going to get information is consistent throughout your entire time today. You're not going to have to learn new systems at each exhibit. Some exhibits aren't going to be inaccessible, where all others are. And you can use your brain power to listen to the incredible stories and histories of the blind people's movement. You're getting the idea now, and you're following your tactile map. You navigate to the first gallery, excited to dive into content. And on the way, you drink some water. You enter the first gallery and know how to find the tactile map explaining in more detail what is contained in this gallery, what types of topics are being addressed, where they are, how to get to them. After exploring this bit for a bit, you roll up to the first exhibit where you're met with a question. What is blindness? I want y'all to think about that. What do you think blindness is? Just in your brains. Right away, you think you have an answer, but as you begin to listen to blind people tell their stories of what blindness means to them, you realize how complex and multi-layered it is from person to person. It's cultural, it's experiential, it's social, it is physical, it changes, it's challenging, and also a source of humor and joy. Already some of your preconceived ideas you had about blind people are being confronted. You begin to explore the gallery further. Your friends are drawn to various areas where they learn stories about blind artists breaking barriers. And right away, you notice your friend in a chair isn't craning their neck to look up, and there's plenty of room for their knees at the interactive so they don't have to roll up sideways and twist around, which is actually funny that I got to that part because I'm on the stage sitting on a stool and my knees, there's no place for my knees to go at this podium, so I had to change positions because there's no forward access at this podium. Always things we can improve upon. Your easily distracted friend, also great moment, skims the large high color contrast titles they find until one really catches their interest about blind people in media. You know they're going to hyperfixate and do a deep dive on that exhibit for the rest of the visit. You can tell your friends are starting to get the hang of the experience as they touch, watch, and listen. After exploring Gallery 1, you all decide to take a bathroom break in the gender-inclusive accessible restrooms. Oh, what a relief to not add any restroom anxiety to your visit. Returning back to Gallery 2, you notice a few things have changed. There's a different floor texture, light quality, and atmospheric sound have shifted. You are met with the same tactile map and wayfinding information, and you're getting the hang of it now. In this room, you learn you'll be exploring the history of the blind people's movement. You're amazed as you look around and hear your entire group of friends flowing in and out of exploring independently and then coming back together, receiving information and experiencing wonder simultaneously. No one is having to interpret for the other person, and all your various ways of interacting with the world are celebrated. Even your one friend who needs a body rest break and decides to go to the main gathering non-gallery space has access to content as they lay down and rest their body without having to go home and leave early. You can't wait to hear about the conversation you know they got into with another museum visitor. Your friends gather to learn about the discrimination blind parents face and the way blind organizers have come together to fight for their rights. You realize you've wondered before how a blind person could parent and begin to reflect on other assumptions you've had. It's an uncomfortable realization, but you're grateful for the opportunity to question your judgments. You decide you want to sit with that feeling and have a moment alone to process, so you break off from the group to find the sensory room. In the room, there's a sense of stillness and calm. You adjust the lighting and snuggle under a weighted blanket, find your favorite fidget, which is this small metal ridged ring that I'm playing with actively right now, and take some deep breaths while letting all the learnings of the day flip past your brain. After a bit of alone time, you decide to skip the third gallery. You know you'll be back, and head to the end of the museum to offer reflections on what you learned. It feels meaningful to be able to contribute your thoughts and offer gratitude to the blind folks who've shared their powerful stories of organizing and advocating for things that not only impact them, but you and your friends. On your way out, you find your gaggle of friends in the gift shop laughing and showing each other various items they've found. For once, this isn't the most accessible area of the museum. Your friend is able to browse the catalog on their phone. Your other friend explores wares made by blind folks, while one plays with the latest accessible technology they've been considering buying but haven't been able to try out in person yet. Back at the coat check, you grab your fully charged power chair and return the rollator, which you rarely had to use because there was enough seating in the entire museum. Woo! Yay, snaps for that. Waiting for the bus, your friends are quiet in awe and in deep reflection of the experience you've all had together. You drink some more water. And then your one friend pulls out their copy of the poem book, Hardly Creatures, by Rob Makasea, Colgate, and shares a poem. Guide overview. If you want help with whatever way you have arrived to, need, stay. Question what moment made you realize you could come home. If you want help with whatever way you have arrived to, need, stay. Question what moment made you realize you could come home. Thank you all for being here today and for making Baltimore a space that disabled people can call home. That went faster than I thought. Usually I talk so much that I was like, I gotta keep it tighter. So we have time for questions. If folks want to ask questions or reflections, thoughts, especially if any disabled people in the audience want to share their imaginings. We'll just do it like we did before with our wonderful volunteer runners running around using those microphones. I see one way in the back.
Hi, my name is Taryn. I'm with the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. I'm a white woman with brown hair and glasses. I go by she, her pronouns. As somebody who works at a museum, I would love to bring our museum to be more accessible, but we're facing incredible cuts from the government. what are some things that you might suggest that we could do that would be maybe lower budget, or I don't want to say like a quick fix, but something that we could make things accessible that would be less pricey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a couple ways to answer it. One is that, so when I started doing this work, it was at the Peel Community Museum, and we had a very, very small budget. I come from like a punk artist background, so I've always just had no budget. And there's things that absolutely require budget. So I think it's really important to be thoughtful and sustainable in the work that we do, and know that it's not happening overnight. I think looking at what Baltimore City of Accessible Arts is doing here today also have a very tiny budget, and a lot of the things that they've produced take time, which is also part of a budget, take time and human resources. But one thing that we did at the Peel was we just started building it into our budget, where there was the same way you wouldn't put an event on and not put the address or the hours. We didn't put an event on without including some small things to start. And some of the things we started with were captions. Captions have gotten so much better now. Auto captions are still not as great as human generated, but I mean, from 10 years ago, they were literally called craptions. So we're making progress with that AI. And so it's part of it is a mind shift of like, this is a priority, and we won't open the show unless there's these things on the wall. And the other thing is really is I think like we're doing here is relational building. It's learning from disabled people. It's knowing that, letting disabled community know that they are welcome, that you want to listen, and that you're committed to doing the work. Obviously paying folks if they're consultants, but one thing I see so often is people start to do the first kind of few steps of the work and spend a lot of time and energy, and it's really incredible, but they don't do the work to connect with disability community, and so disabled folks don't show up. And rebuilding that trust is really, really critical, and doing the active work to I mean, one thing I just love so much is that there are disability-led organizations here, and let those folks who have really strong relationships with disabled community, letting their members know, letting their organizers know that these museums are really out there doing that work. And I think that's what's happening with this groundswell. I'm not going to give you the checklist because I think we get stuck on that, and it really depends on like what your priorities are. There's lots of things that can be done, and there's lots of resources out there online that are free that do give kind of a checklist and are like, these are the first few things to pay attention to. And I guess the one other thing I will say is be honest and put it on your website. So creating a place on your website, which again doesn't take money, to just add a little bit more information about what your institution looks like right now goes a long way. And I think often people are a little squeamish to say, oh, if we kind of own how little accessibility we are, disabled people will notice, but we notice now. And when I see a website that's like even just has a tiny section or an event that says like accessibility, for more information, reach out to me. Literally, even if you're not doing anything, if there's an email that I can reach out to someone with, I will think, okay, that place cares about me and wants to pay attention to me, even if they can't do what I'm asking. There's that relational building that's happening. Yeah, thanks.
My name is Dina. I'm a full-figure older woman with gray hair. And I just wonder, I don't know if I missed this part when you were saying that the two visual poems, that is this a place that's actually coming? And is it a place where we get more information on it, the website? And did they have like an input session or something where people can give feedback of what they thought should be included in this accessible museum that's coming?
That's such a great question. So it was a little confusing maybe. The two poems that I read are from this book that are not a real museum, but the kind of visitor journey that I was talking about is going to be a real museum. So that is called the Museum of the Blind People's Movement. And if you want to learn more about it, the National Federation of the Blind has information, has a web page. Is there a follow-up email that's going out? I will make sure to add some links to the stuff that both this book and the Museum of the Blind People's Movement website, so people can learn about it. They have a newsletter to sign up for to learn, to get updates about the development of it. It's a ways off. It takes a lot, and as the person mentioned earlier, funding for museums and all culture and arts is non-existent right now. But part of what we're doing is community listening sessions. This started 4 years ago, and the first thing that we did was do high pitched noise, which like resets my brain. It's like, what was I talking about? Oh, community listening sessions. So as this is a project of the National Federation of the Blind, they have a large membership, and it was really important to them to reach out and say like, hey, what do you all want? Do you want this? What is important to you? And one thing that stands out to me was one of the most important things when people were surveyed was that they wanted to show an example of an accessible museum. So of course, the importance of sharing blind history and changing people's stigmas about blindness was critical, but being that example and what it means when blind people create and lead was really critical. And that's continued on as collecting, yeah.
So you said y'all been in this process for 4 years. So how long do you think it'll be before it actually, comes to existence?
I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
a way out.
It's a ways out.
But
yeah.
y'all that y'all have the funding or
I think that's part of the challenge right now is
getting
funding with
funding.
museums. Yeah.
Okay.
We want to take the time to really listen to community and to get the funding to build something that has not been built before. So there's a lot of, again, community input. One of the things we always do on all of our projects is what we call prototyping, where we think, okay, this might work for people to interact in this way. Let's actually have people come and try it out over and over again and give feedback before we actually just produce it, because oftentimes people create things for disabled people and they just put it out there. I will say though, another project we've been working on is opening next year, and that's in Louisville, Kentucky, if you ever get down there. The American Printing House of the Blind is an institution that's been creating Braille literacy and doing a lot of service work for blind people for a very long time. And they are opening a museum that is different than the Blind People's Movement Museum, but will also be inclusively designed. And yeah, it's about, yeah, so that will be a third one that I can share. So there are, yeah.
That's very nice to say. Cincinnati, Ohio. They have a sign museum there.
A sign museum.
And Kentucky and Indiana, they're all in the same circle. So I just left from there.
Amazing.
That's a coincidence.
Thank you. Time for one more question.
Hi there. My name is Jillian. I am a white female, 35 years old, with low vision and a lifelong chronic illness. I was wondering, the narrative that you, what's the word I'm looking for? That you laid out for us, is that available online? Because I'd love to share that with like family members, because I think one of the things that I struggle with living in DC is that people come and visit and they want to go to the Smithsonian's. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to like stand here and pretend to be interested and I can't see anything and they don't want to read stuff to me. So I was just like, this would just kind of give them insight into what like my experience is when they ask to go to 15 museums that don't interest me at all.
Yeah, I wrote that based off of what our design team has created. And so I would want to check, I would need to check in with some folks about the ability to share it. But I'm definitely down to talk with you more. And I also do think that this book that I read poetry from does have a lot more in there that is this interesting way of creatively kind of explaining the barriers within museums. And I wonder, yeah, let me talk to me afterwards, and I will think about like what I could get to you, because that is, yeah, interpreting to people who are not disabled is a skill, and it's tiring.
Yes, yes, thank you.
We do have one last question from online, if
sure,
that's
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Any work going on in other countries that we can learn from?
I would say that there are a lot of examples of people doing a couple things well, all over this country and other countries. I have not come across a space that's doing all of it well. And as we kind of talked about in the visitor journey, for it really to be an inclusive experience, all the pieces need to work together. And so, yeah, I mean, there's not a place that I would send people to right now that it's like, yes, you can get the soup to nuts experience of an accessible experience. But there are places that just do visual descriptions really well. There's places that do dementia programming really well. There's places that are thinking about, all these various elements, but the whole thing together, coming together, is still in the works. But honestly, the APH, American Printing House of the Blind, their museum is called the Dot Experience, which is opening next fall. That will be a place I will send people. Thank you, everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Robin. That was incredible. So I'm going to transition just before we go to lunch. Oops, sorry. Could you reach that computer? I'm just going to put it on top of yours for a sec. Is that okay? Right.
Alex, if I could, we have one comment that didn't come in the chat, but came from our disability consultant who's on Zoom, who wanted me to share her feedback.
That's great. Yes.
So this is Kate Hargrove, one of our disability consultants, who wrote this during the Seeing Without Sight and Alyscia program. I just want to tell everybody that I love how the blind can see their blindness as a blessing and appreciate the beauty of the universe and the world around them. This is inspiring. If it is possible, please share what I said. Let these amazing women, including these panelists, know how much they have inspired me this morning. Let them know it's me, Kate Hargrove, who mentioned this. And to the volunteers and consultants, I want everyone to know the positive energy I'm giving out to these strong women who can accept their blindness as a true blessing. Kudos to them.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to read that. So we are getting ready for lunch. We've been doing a lot of listening. We've also been doing a lot of interacting, which I am so appreciative of the questions and answers and all the support that's facilitating that. Before we go to lunch, as we go to lunch, I wanted to bring up this artwork. This is an art piece by the artist Jen White Johnson, who is an artist, designer, educator, and activist that in disability fashion, today was a day that wasn't possible for her body to be present with us, but her work is still present. And so this is her piece, The Anti-Ableist Art Educators Manifesto. And I'm gonna leave this, there's quite a bit of text in it. I will absolutely, and I'm sure, and there will be many people who would be open to visually describing the work. Well, actually, I'm just going to read the works to make sure that it is in the room. Thank you. I'm so sorry that You know, learning in process. Also, this is Alex speaking. Okay, so on this is there's a yellow background. At the top, there are symbols going across horizontally of smiley faces, kind of stars, rainbows. They're all in black and white on this yellow background. It reads the Anti-Ableist Art Educators Manifesto, and manifesto is in huge print in the center. Really bold, all capital, and everything on here is capitalized. So under that title, it says number 1, show up. Number 2, eradicate ableism. Number 3, uplift acceptance. Number 4, create with and not for. Number 5, our differences should embolden us. Number 6, disability is not a bad word. Number 7, value all bodies and minds. Number 8, allyship is a sacrifice. And number 9, our art is our survival. And this was produced in Disability Solidarity. And for more information, please visit Jen White Johnson's website, which is jenwhitejohnson.com. You're gonna meet more disabled artists that have been featured throughout the convenings. But Jen White Johnson is a disabled artist that recently was featured at our BMA convening. So it's such a gift to be able to share this powerful work with you. And we're gonna leave this up during lunchtime, just so that if you wanna spend more time with it, because there's a lot of information and a lot of, and obviously a lot of feeling in it. Just so we have the logistics of lunch. There is lunch provided. There are multiple dietary choices. Thank you, Marguerite. It's being served in Poe room, so you're gonna navigate to the second floor. There are folks in the hallway, and also there's visible signing on the stanchions, and then there's also live signage in the hallway leading you to the elevators, going down, and then to the Poe room. We just need to go down one level. There's places to sit and eat in the Mikulski room and the conference room. These are both on the 3rd floor. You're also welcome to eat in the Poe room. And I just want you to keep in mind that the next presentation is gonna start at 1:30. So we'll see you back in about 40 minutes. Thanks so much, everyone. Okay, so if you would come in and settle wherever feels right for your body, we're gonna get started in about a minute. Okay, and you can tell we have a really full lineup, so we're gonna start pretty promptly. Okay, so first, I want to pass it to Marguerite because Marguerite wanted to present on, or wanted to share about some important materials that are outside. And Marguerite, it is towards your right. Can someone pass Marguerite one? Yeah. That was my. Oh, that's yours. I was like, wow, I have one.
I don't know if oh yeah, it is. Hi, everyone. This is Marguerite again, Marguerite Woods. I'm the blind Black lady with glasses. Wanted to let everybody know that there's a number that you can call across the country, but in particular in Maryland and especially in Baltimore. It's 988. And it's a number to call in lieu of 911 when there's a behavioral or a situation that doesn't need the police for a criminal situation. It's also the suicide prevention line, drug overuse. And if you just need to talk to somebody, it's 24/7. And there's a lot going on all across the country. And for people to have a way to deal with the trauma that they might be experiencing. And so one of the choices that they can make is to call 988. And so we have a table right outside this auditorium with some materials that you can take with you. Just wanted to let everybody know that so that you have an opportunity to get some of that. Thank you.
Wonderful. And so what is coming up now is we're going to have presentations from all of our the different communities that have been participating in BCAA. And so first up, we're going to have art spaces that is going to be beautifully introduced by Debbie Mason. Then we're going to move into disability organizations. And then finally, we're going to move into disabled artists. So I'm going to pass this to Debbie Mason, who is introducing Caitlin Garbarino and Dr. Cheryl Fogelhatch. Thanks so much, Debbie.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back for the second half of today's convening. My name is Debbie Mason. My mother named me Deborah, but I try to be sophisticated and use the name Deborah, and it never works. I always end up Debbie, so Debbie Mason. I am a medium-complected African-American woman. I'm wearing locks, mixed gray locks, pulled back in a ponytail. I have on a beige tunic and oversized dark pants. I am a MICA graduate of 2025 from their curatorial program. Thank you, thank you. But it's not about me. As part of the exhibition development seminar that I took in 2023, the class was charged to curate the Elizabeth Talbot Scott Initiative exhibition called No Stones Left Unturned. And during that time, well, actually that exhibition was commemorating the 25th anniversary of her first exhibition, Eye Winkles, Tumble Turds, and Candlebugs. So that was her original exhibition showing her quilts to the public. So No Stone Left Unturned was a unique historic exhibition because it opened in February 25, and the quilts were seen at Baltimore Museum of Art and 8 other venues, including museums and universities. And I was blessed to curate the show 98 Till Infinity at Coppin State University's Cryer Gallery with my partner, Aleem Allison. During the development of the exhibitions, some of us had conversations around accessibilities as we were developing the exhibitions. So a new project emerged that evolved into Baltimore, the city of accessible arts. We tried to answer the questions, how should we be mindful of the needs of people who have special needs? All people deserve to engage with art as consumers and makers. It is incumbent upon those who, without special needs, to make sure spaces for audiences of all kinds are available, not just as an afterthought, but during the development phase, it should be happening naturally and organically. BCAA has taken on that challenge. BCAA partnered with both individuals, hereafter known as disability consultants, and organizations that focus on support for special needs. The disability consultants came to the individual sites and critiqued our offerings, helping us to provide the best possible experiences to the public. I would like to say that for the disability consultant that came to Coppin, he was very instrumental in verifying that we did some things right. One of the things that we did was use dyslexic font. And he was very happy with that because his disability was both physical and learning. So he was wheelchair bound or a wheelchair user. And so his anxiety would start at the front door. How do I get into the space? Is it open for me? Can I just easily go in, or is there going to be a problem? And for him, we learned that we did have some problems where we had double doors, but they weren't both opened. And because the facilities people opened the door, we could not open the second door. So we had to make sure that that happened. We also had a sign-in sheet as you came in, but it was on a podium that was too high for him. So we learned some lessons. But we did provide, like I said, dyslexic font, closed captioning video, seating both inside the space and outside, and textile opportunities for people to touch. So his critique was very instrumental for us to provide at least a good experience for most people. And the one thing we learned with that is that you may not be able to fix everything or provide everything, but the fact that you try is appreciated. We also went on field trips that shed light on how people with disabilities maneuver their environments and how technology can assist. One of my takeaways from these experiences is that no venue can solve all the obstacles, as I've said before, placed on disabled people, but whenever it is done, it is appreciated. Therefore, the work must continue. To share further examples of how this information is put into practice, you will hear from Caitlin Garbarino, Director of Interpretation of the Baltimore Museum of Art, and Dr. Cheryl Fogle-Hatch, founder of Museum Sense and curator of Founding Fossils exhibit at the Peel. Part of the BCAA community are artists with disabilities, some of whom have graced the hallways with their work. These artists are associated with Make Studio in Baltimore and VisArts in Rockville, Maryland. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Awesome. And so Caitlin's coming up. Take your time. I'm just gonna put a timer on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Garbarino. I'm Director of Interpretation at the Baltimore Museum of Art. I'm a white cis woman in my 30s. I'm short, 5'4", with wavy red hair, and I'm wearing all black today. My pronouns are she, her. I'm here to share the BMA's journey toward making art accessible for all, a journey that is still very much in progress. For many of us, a significant turning point came with our 2023 to 2024 exhibition, Eyewinkers, Tumbletoads, and Candlebugs, The Art of Elizabeth Talford Scott, guest curated by George Sissel. While accessibility work didn't begin there for us, the exhibition helped shift internal culture in many ways that we're still learning from today. You'll hear me say we a lot. The work we do at the BMA is deeply collaborative, from curators to installation, graphics, and then our senior leaders. And we were all united around this mission of ensuring accessibility. This work was also personally and professionally important to me. Interpretive specialists are first and foremost visitor advocates. We like and are devoted to finding out what people need and making people feel welcomed in at times very uncomfortable spaces. And that work is so consuming. But I'm only one person with one limited perspective and lived experience. And so the work we do must be collaborative. As you'll see, our work was also made possible in very large part thanks to the frameworks and advocacy long established by the disability consultants for this show. A little backstory, if you haven't already heard, the BMA was the first of 9 institutions to organize an exhibition of this artist's work. And our mission for this one was to reimagine George's original 1998 retrospective with the same title. Here's a slide introducing Talford Scott and her work. The slide is titled Eyewinkers, Tumbletures, and Candlebugs, The Art of Elizabeth Talford Scott. And I included a black and white photograph of the artist. She's smiling, gazing upwards with her hands resting on both sides of her face. This was a photograph taken in her 60s. Alongside this image are 3 of her multimedia quilts with various patterns, colors, materials, such as bound rocks. And for a new generation, George asked us to consider what community does the BMA feel they need to better serve. And it really came at a moment when our accessibility working group, a cross-departmental team of colleagues, felt like we weren't making any visible efforts to showing the disability community our work, which was often done project by project, bit by bit, too slow to create meaningful change. By having a clear mission and plan, funding, and buy-in from all staff, this exhibition became a kind of catalyst that allowed us to make something in our museum more accessible in a way we never had done before. So I'll begin with a roughly 1-minute video showing some of the resources we made to make this exhibition more inclusive. What you'll hear and see is me giving a mini tour of the show. While I'm talking, visitors are engaging with each of the access features I'm introducing. And there's no audio. I can also narrate.
Okay, let's have him. Oh. Is there anything we should do about this? Or is there anything we can do? We've got it, we've got the aux cord in. Thank you for catching that.
Familiar?
Always. Literally the 15th.
I hope it's worth it.
Okay, let's try.
All right.
Oh.
Let me try turning up the volume. Yeah.
Oh, it's coming out of this directly. If it's something that we can't solve right now,
yeah,
we can. Okay, great.
We can't solve it. I will narrate.
I think it's just too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's, yeah.
Very soft. Yes.
Here,
Barely.
let's turn off the sound.
Yes. I'm happy to narrate.
Let's narrate.
Yep. All right. You don't need to hear me introduce myself again. All right, let me start this. So welcome to Elizabeth Talford Scott. I'm going to take you on a little tour of accessibility resources new to the BMA and our visitors. This was a accessibility guide of audio transcripts, visual descriptions available at both of our entrances. This is a 3D printed photograph of Elizabeth Talford Scott called a lithophane photograph. You can feel all the tactile features of her face printed in reverse, and then alongside there's a braille label that gives you a visual description of what you're feeling in the photograph. We also have a variety of seating options in the exhibition. For this chair with armrests, it allows you to lift yourself from the arms, and then we have modular seating so you can move around the gallery. We also have a plush leather couch for you to sit down and stay a while. This is a touch sample of Elizabeth Talford Scott's quilts inspired by the works in this gallery. It features different types of materials she used, like velvets and silks and rocks and seashells. Here you can make a tactile response on our What Are Your Dreams Visit Response board. First, you put your card on the raised line drawing board. Then you draw quite heavily on the card, like a star. Then you turn it over and you can feel your drawing in reverse. Someone left a response of hearts behind for us. Thanks for watching. Be sure to stop by the exhibition before it closes on April 28th. Indeed, indeed. So the interpretive Braille labels I showed in this video were actually the first we created for an exhibition at the BMA. We referred to them as Braille interpretive labels because they went a step beyond translation of any accompanying printed text to include visual descriptions and additional context. On this slide titled, that's not it. Oops, my slide's missing. Well, I have a slide titled Creating Braille Labels, A Journey of Surprises, Mistakes, and Discoveries. I included one image, thank goodness for visual descriptions, showing the touchable 3D printed photograph of Elizabeth Talfourd Scott displayed on a wall beside his 8-inch wide by 12-inch long interpretive Braille label and vinyl text label. The other image's slide was a close-up of that quilt touch sample on a 26-inch high pedestal alongside its Braille label. Before this exhibition, we had many tactile objects, but none of them had Braille, so they weren't accessible. We also learned that even touch objects need interpretation. What is the connection between this experience and the artwork on view? We did have a very basic understanding of the Braille production process after working with a very fantastic consulting group called Prime Access Consulting. They worked with us on a project just a few months prior, and they said, you translate your text to Braille, ensure it's correct, lay it out, produce it. So when they oversaw this work for us, that seemed very simple, straightforward enough, but when they were no longer around and you have to put into practice what you were just taught, it all fell apart. It seemed like the Braille production world was very small and limited. I couldn't seem to find a Braille printing company that would just take my label and make it in Braille for me. So instead, as a sighted person with no knowledge of this process, you read the entire Braille Blaster translation program user manual. You do a deep dive into the standards of grade 1 and 2 Braille cell types. You Google how to find Braille proofreaders and call or email anyone you can think of. You find the one blog that tells you about the font type and size for designing Braille. You hold your breath that your Braille proofreader says everything looks good. It did, but they also rightfully tease you for repeatedly saying English to Braille translation and not printed text to Braille translation because, as I said, obviously they're both English. And so after just 4 labels were made, it was quite the rewarding journey to bringing Braille into the BMA's galleries. We've since created many more. Our strategy has been to include Braille label wherever there's a touchable object. Where we'd love to go next is everywhere across the museum. Maybe buy a Braille printer or at least find a vendor to print Braille files into hard copy guides for us. The story of captioning time-based media for our exhibition was equally rewarding, but not as much of a roller coaster. On this slide titled Video Captioning, a Layered Approach, I've included 3 images. One features a closed caption archival video of the artist projected onto a gallery wall. Another shows the wall label for the archival video, including a QR code in the prompt, scan here to read a transcript of the video. The third image shows the exhibition's introductory text mounted on a wall on a clear plexi holder containing spiral-bound accessibility guides with audio transcripts and visual descriptions. And here we took a holistic approach to creating a resource and thinking about the various ways to make it accessible, something we learned from Prime Access Consulting. For example, each video in this exhibition, there were 2, were closed captioned on the screen, thinking of sighted and deaf or hard of hearing folks. Then those captions were provided as transcripts in a printed handheld guide for folks who prefer physical copy, who need large print, or who have a companion to assist them. And then those transcripts were available digitally on an individual web page for your personal device to be read by a screen reader. Even then, there's still so much more we could have done and need to do, and there's so many more layers to add. The next steps for us would be to provide a Braille version of that accessibility guide. And it's a bit hard to notice on this PowerPoint, but the QR code on this image is applied as a sticker. It's actually a bit dirty due to all the fingerprints touching it. This was in an effort to make the QR code tactile, to provide people the edge detection needed to find the QR code. So that folks could know how to find these QR codes, we didn't have that answer during the exhibition. We've tested since some 4 indicator prototypes and found that they weren't successful. So now we're back in research mode. We're also now working to transcribe every video we display at the museum and build that work into our process. But the battle we really need to fight is captioning video artworks. Sina Bram at Prime Access Consulting once said to me that if you or an artist can't, won't whatever caption their artwork, then it's just not accessible. This slide, titled "Nothing Without Us, A Baltimore Story," features a still from a video created by Levi Lewis in collaboration with Melanie Hood Wilson Associates. The image shows Alex Veloso gesturing animatedly with her hands and talking to a group of people taking notes as they listen. And it was the video that shared all the disability consultant work that was done to evaluate the Elizabeth Talford Scott exhibition throughout Baltimore. I use this image to illustrate that we have many questions, big and small, that required the help of consultants with disabilities. On this project, we worked with two. One, the BMA contracted to proofread our Braille and to also conduct user testing, Cheryl Vogelhatch of Museum Senses. Cheryl guided us on many things, like how our QR codes were too small. We've since made them larger, not large enough. She also informed us that she was unable to navigate a PDF of the accessibility guide, so our accessibility working group learned together how to properly tag PDFs with Adobe's accessibility tools. We also discussed the possibility of a web page to house visual descriptions and transcripts that blind and low vision people could search through easier. We've since made 3 of these accessibility digital guides with her feedback in mind. Our other consultant was hired through Melanie Hood Wilson and Associates. This person was very attuned to their body, very sensitive to the environment around them, and they were reluctant to touch the 3D photograph, but they did want to touch the quilt sample. They weren't interested in gallery text, preferring to hear about the artist and work from the student curators. They were honest and asked for space when they needed it. And they left saying, Elizabeth Talford Scott, her story, it was so inspiring that they also felt that they were less alone. This opportunity made me consider the ways we could explore and expand a sense of safety for our visitors, such as with Learn Before You Go messaging, or a map highlighting where the spaces are quiet, loud, bright, touchable, preparing you for all the senses that you may not or may wish to be a part of. The BMA's Accessibility Working Group has been working to create this resource. With the rollout of a new website, the BMA will at long last, have an accessibility webpage and ways to better message which exhibitions and galleries have accessible tools and resources. So a little over a year since this exhibition closed, my takeaway is this. It did spark a real culture shift, and yet we still have so long to go. I've seen more of my colleagues step up as accessibility advocates, and the show and recent work reminded us again and again that accessibility can't be an add-on or an afterthought. It must be embedded into every part of our museum. And it's work we must remain fully committed to, not just for one exhibition. Time has showed the ways we also fell short in this one exhibition by not having large print labels, more QR codes, a disabled artist to create resources for disabled people, for not bringing consultants earlier into our planning, and so much more. The more we do that, though, the closer we become to building a museum day by day that is truly inclusive, welcoming, and meaning for all. Thank you.
Okay, and next up we have Dr. Cheryl Vogelhatch. And I'm gonna start this. I'm putting on a timer for us.
Perfect. Can I get you to advance slides when I'm ready?
Yeah, would that be great?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say next slide, please.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Okay, I'm starting it.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Vogelhatch. I founded a company called Museum Senses, like the 5 senses. I do consulting, I do research. I have a research affiliation with NYU Ability Project. And honestly, I'm recycling slides from a presentation I did in conjunction with NYU Ability Project, which is why that logo is still there. Next slide, please. So I will give the description first, and I do this because it's my way of coping with a visual media. It's also my way to make sure my lovely assistant Alex has the correct slide, and it's okay. But the artist in his museum is the title on this slide. It is a full-length portrait of Charles Wilson Peale. By the way, Wilson is spelled with 2 L's, which always kind of, that is hanging on the wall behind a display. The display has 2 3D printed mastodon bones. And on the right is a bust of Charles Wilson Peale. Those are tactile objects representative of the big major components in the visual painting. That is the first stop in the exhibit for founding fossils. So I co-curated Founding Fossils exhibit. It's at the Peale Museum, and it explains the relationship that early American leaders had to finding out about extinction of animals and other kinds of things at the beginning of the United States. The Cliff Notes version, there was this French scientist who wrote that animals living in America were weaker than animals living in Europe, and American animals degenerated and went extinct. As you might expect, the founding fathers like Franklin, Jefferson, and Washington disagreed with this statement. So they were looking for big animals, and they sent big animals to Europe, and they did all skeletons, they did all sorts of things, and they were really interested in extinct fossils. And so the painting in this slide is that in 1801, the painter Charles Wilson Peale excavated a mastodon, that's an extinct elephant. And my co-curator, who is a professor at VCU, Bernard Means, 3D scanned those fossils. And his students created the artwork, which I'll talk more about that collaboration. But that's the Cliff Notes version. It's a very complicated story. It's got art and science and all kinds of things in it, and it's still up. So get down to the Peale if you haven't. It's on holiday straight across from the city buildings. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. This slide is an image of a mastodon sculpture. It's a little bit larger than this podium. It's so that you can stand in one place and feel the full mastodon from the tusks and the head of the elephant, extinct elephant, all the way down across the body, legs, tail, to feel that. That sculpture was made by one of the VCU students, Anna Carter, and she made that sculpture based on the painting, and once it dried in air clay, Bernard Means scanned it, and so we have the 3D printed replica in the exhibit, and the students painted that. So this exhibit is multisensory. There are both visual and tactile elements. So that sculpture of a mastodon is also represented in other ways in the various pictures in the exhibit. That exhibit has accessible information. There are both Braille and print labels. They're on the right of the pedestal. These photos were taken at installation because we had a presentation I needed to get them out for. The labels are not in the photos, and they're small anyway, but they're there, trust me. There is also an audio tour available. If you scan your phone, you can get a QR code, scan it, and you can have that read in with your phone and listen to some of the audio. The VCU students did a reading of the comic book that's part of the exhibit as both audio description and content of the comic book, which is a lot of fun, including one student who mimicked the French accent in kind of a comic way. So next slide, please. So this slide is about the partnership that I had with the VCU. These are students, they're sitting at tables in a makerspace. It's at the university. They have replicas of the fossils, and they have art supplies because the students painted all the 3D prints. This is a photograph that Bernard Means sent us all. There's a guide that he put together for how this exhibit was created and what they did with 3D. When I give longer presentations to museums, my takeaway is sometimes you need to find community partners to do some of the things you may not have the resources to do. So in this case, the 3D printing expertise came from Bernard Means and his students and the paintings, and came with some resources from his university to support his work, which was handy. And that's why I keep that slide there, because sometimes accessibility is knowing what you need to ask for and finding out who knows what. I'm a business of one, and so a lot of my work is connecting people. Hey, I know about this thing, and oh, someone else is asking about it. Let me send an introduction. So I do a lot of that. Next slide, please. There is no image on this slide. That is because it's an exhibit in planning. I'm hoping that there are artists in this room, some of whom I've talked to about this exhibit. Yes. I'm still waiting because I have I have someone who wants to submit a bunch of works to me if I want more than the one he's submitted. So, but this exhibit is called The Active Power of Touch. It is planned for April 2026 at the Peel Museum. I'm looking for local artists in the Baltimore area who are interested in making work that they want to be touched, or who already have work that they want to be touched. So I've got my, maybe get this link out in the follow-up email?
Absolutely.
Robin's stuff? Perfect.
Absolutely.
Now that I've given notes. So I have a link on my website that is the call for artists, and it has a form, and it will be open. I'm going to keep it open till August 15th because I'm taking vacation in early August, and I said July 31st, but I'm going to give people a couple more weeks just because. And I'm wanting to find out who's interested in work that can be touched, who can submit a description of it, because I'm interested in that, and I need basic information. And a big process improvement I had to do with this is the calls for entry I got were send a picture and we'll jury your art based on the picture. And I probably missed this in my description because I got so into describing my pictures, but I happen to be totally blind, and sending a photo, while it can be useful to share with my colleagues, I don't feel like I can make the full judgment based on a photo, even though if I get it described. So I have instituted a process where basically the form is submit interest, and then I'll go to artist studios and visit, and we'll have those conversations about how they can make art that's touch, what I think of it, and I will come up with my list from there. And maybe next time I give this presentation next year, the exhibit will be happening and there will actually be an image on that slide I can describe to you. I think I'll give you back whatever's left.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, let's thank Dr. Cheryl Fogelhouse. And if you go forward. Okay, and Marguerite, why don't I hand you a, can you have this one going? This next one? I don't know how to turn on. Yeah, but it's not on. Oh, there we go. We got other ones that are on. Okay. Yeah, here we go.
Awesome. Thank you. This is again Marguerite Woods. I am the same blind, bald, Black woman. And so today we've got two people here who will describe their organizations and special projects. They are among many Baltimore organizations that support adults and children with disabilities. Baltimore, the City of Accessible Arts, is building connections across disability, across the city, with young people and adults among Blind Industries and Services of Maryland and the National Federation of the Blind. I want to welcome Chris Rogers, who I believe is Director of Engagement, is that right? With the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council, and Chris Norling, who I believe is Chief Advancement Officer, fiscal sponsor for Baltimore, the City of Accessible Arts. So, gentlemen, yes. Pass or want to step up?
Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is, hold on, I'm just gonna see if, yeah. My name is Chris Rogers. As Marguerite said, I'm the Director of Engagement for the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. I'm a young white man with brown hair and a beard and a blue shirt. I'm really excited to be here with you all to share a little bit about the council and what we do, and 2 projects that we're working on that are kind of arts adjacent, I would say. So first off, about the council, we are an independent state agency, statewide organization that supports people with developmental disabilities and their families. Our vision is for people with and without disabilities in Maryland to live, learn, work, and play together. And our mission is that we create change to make it possible for people with developmental disabilities to live the lives they want with the support they need. And our work falls into a couple different categories, grants and advocacy. I'm going to talk today mostly about 2 projects that we're working on that fall, I would say, more into the advocacy field. So the first one is inclusive recreation and specifically inclusive playgrounds. So Maryland needs more playgrounds where all children and their families can play. There's a lot of playgrounds in Maryland that meet what are considered the bare minimum ADA accessibility standards, and that's really not enough to allow everyone to meaningfully play and engage on these playgrounds. So, for example, according to the ADA, there are several types of mulch or mulch type surfaces that are considered fully accessible. If you try to take a manual wheelchair on a mulch playground, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very challenging. So that segregates people. So one of our goals with our Inclusive Playgrounds project is to educate and promote and highlight playgrounds in Maryland that are truly inclusive, that allow everyone to play together and alongside each other. So in 2022, 3 years ago, we started working with the Maryland Department of Disabilities, which is another state agency here in Maryland, on the framework and toolkit for inclusive playgrounds. So this is about a 20-page publication, and I'll have a link to it later in here, as well as I have some paper copies that I can pass out to anyone who's interested. But this publication explains what inclusive playgrounds are, why they're important, and how to create them in your community. And so the 4 kind of big main tenets of an inclusive playground that we like to highlight is that they're accessible for everyone. They're adaptive, so that means they can fit lots of different needs at the same time. There's kind of something for everyone. They're welcoming, so people feel welcome and like they belong there. And they make people feel good, make people feel happy when they're there, because ultimately that's the point of a playground, that's the point of recreation, right? So this framework came out, we published it in 2023. We've been sharing it with public and private groups across Maryland, some other state agencies. We shared it in the Maryland General Assembly. We have met with school districts and local county and city agencies, as well as some private nonprofit organizations, just trying to steer people in the direction for these inclusive playgrounds. So the next thing that we're working on with this is a fully interactive, fully accessible Playgrounds for All website. And this will kind of be split into 2 main parts. It'll have detailed information about how to create an inclusive playground in your community. So the original publication had this toolkit with kind of step-by-step instructions. This goes even further with a lot more resources that are tailored to whatever makes the most sense for your community. And then it's also going to include an interactive map of public playgrounds in Maryland with accessible features. So we reached out to every county in Maryland and every city and town in Maryland to try and get their list of playgrounds with accessible and inclusive features. We're really excited about that map. We're hoping the website launches in the next month or so, but definitely by the end of the summer. So be on the lookout for that. And then on this slide, we have two pictures from a couple inclusive playgrounds. The top one shows a group of children and their families playing on a large glider, and it's fully wheelchair accessible. So there's a young girl in a wheelchair on there, as well as several other kids, and they're all able to play together. There's something for everyone there. This is at a park in Howard County. It's part of Patapsco Valley State Park, the Hollifield play area. And then the bottom one here shows three kids at a musical device. One of the kids is in a wheelchair. And again, they're all able to play together because this is an accessible playground that fosters the opportunities for, no one is segregated, everyone is together. And this is part of Bland Air Park in Howard County. So that's a little bit about inclusive playgrounds. The last thing I'm going to talk about real quick is our plain language work. So for those of you who don't know, plain language is writing that's easily understandable by anyone. This includes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This includes people whose first language is something other than English. And plain language just makes information more accessible for everyone. So we've been working on promoting plain language usage across the state of Maryland over the past few years. It's one of our big initiatives. There's two kind of big milestones that I'm going to touch on real quick. In 2023, we worked with the Motor Vehicle Administration, the MVA, to put their driver's manual and learner's permit test in plain language. There were a lot of people who were going in, they knew all the information on the written driving test, but the double negatives and the confusing jargon and language that didn't really make sense was tripping them up, and so they were failing and having to retake the test over and over again. After it was put in plain language in the first few months after that change, the MVA saw a 15% increase in people passing the test. And again, this is across a whole range of people. And it includes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, includes people who, are non-native English speakers. So it really benefits everyone. We kind of see it as, it lifts the floor for everyone to, kind of be lifted up together. And then in 2024, last summer, right around this time, actually, Governor Moore signed an executive order creating the Plain Language Initiative for all state government agencies. So this requires state agencies to create a plan to make all the information that's on their websites in plain language, make it more accessible. So this includes things like, disaster preparedness information or information about, healthcare in the state of Maryland, information about education and schools and transportation. So kind of all these pillars of day-to-day life and public safety for people that will now be more accessible to everyone once all these state agencies enact the plain language on their websites. So that's just a brief rundown on the plain language initiative that we're working on. We're really excited about that and looking forward to see this enacted at a statewide level. So the last slide here, real quick, I didn't describe this picture here on the previous slide on plain language. It's a picture of Governor Moore after he signed the executive order, along with some state agency leaders, including the executive director of the DD Council and our council chair. So this last slide here, just a couple QR codes with more information on the Playgrounds for All framework and toolkit, and then a couple plain language resources that I really like. Like I said, I also have some printouts of the Playgrounds for All framework. If you're interested in that, I'm happy to give you one. And my email is up here as well. It's crogers@md-council.org. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me with any questions about this or just general questions about the council and our work. And I'm happy to connect with you. But thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And now Chris Norkline, is that how I say it right? Norline is up with Dark.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, amazing.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm the other Chris, representing this category. Again, my name is Chris Norley. I'm the Chief Advancement Officer at the ARC Baltimore. I'm a few inches shy of 7 feet, which was Marguerite and I were chuckling at that because she didn't realize there was that much of a height difference. I'm wearing a bright purple shirt that says the ARC Baltimore and all throughout. And on the back, it says disability rights are human rights, which is something that we firmly believe in at the ARC. And I could talk more than 10 minutes, but I know that Friday afternoon presenters are, this is the prime spot for attentive audience members. So I'm going to hold you all to that. I will say, Caitlin, one of my favorite pieces in Elizabeth Telford Scott's installation, is that right? Installation was the piece that she would warm up of rocks, and it was like the early version of a hot water bottle or a weighted blanket. I was just fascinated by that. So that was one of my favorite pieces. For those of you that don't know us, we are an organization in Baltimore. We're in our 75th year, providing, yes, thank you, yes. And we provide services and advocate alongside people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you, on the screen here is our mission. The ARC Baltimore supports people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in leading fulfilling lives with a sense of belonging, purpose, and meaningful relationships. Now, I want to point out, I love, just as much as the mission, I love our vision. And it was very intentional that it was a vision for a world that incorporated people with disabilities, but really spoke to everyone in this world. So a world where all people are valued, their voices are heard, and their impact is felt. Okay. So I just want to ground you a little bit, and a lot of this you've already know this, the history of the disability rights movement, but the ARC Baltimore was in its various iterations of an organization was rooted in and founded by families who had no resources for their children. So imagine having a child diagnosed with a disability and then told by your pediatrician that the safest and the best course of action is to put your child at Rosewood. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the Rosewood Center. Yes? Mm-hmm. That's good. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. It is. And it's interesting, Bess, we think about the younger generation within the disability community that will never know what life was like for many people back then. So and I think for good reason, in that we at the ARC Baltimore are all community based. And institutions like Rosewood, Willowbrook up in New York, where there's a great expose with Geraldo Rivera, that he was sneaking in to the institution at a time when no public was allowed. And they lived in awful conditions. It was a very medical, sterile environment. So in response to that, there were 8 parents sitting around a kitchen table saying, what are we going to do? We don't have access to community activities. We don't have access to, we don't have a right to an education, and a variety other of lack in resources. So that became the first iteration of what is now the ARC Baltimore. And we are one of almost 700 chapters across the United States. And we are locally, as much as we are a direct service provider, we are an advocate, a collective voice for many Marylanders with disabilities. And we interact and have coalitions with organizations like Chris's, the Developmental Disabilities Council. There's People in the Go of Maryland, which is an organization run by people with disabilities. Fantastic group. If you haven't heard Matt Rice speak, he's fantastic. He's their exec there. So we have a very large presence down in Annapolis, and that's very important. And for those of you that are up to date on what's happening now in Maryland, and then you think about the potential changes in federal funding in regards to Medicaid cuts, this legislative session for us in Maryland has been, I've been at the ARC, it'll be 20 years in October, but this is the first legislative session where it didn't feel like we had a firm grasp on where funding will be and what will services look like moving forward. And I'm happy to report that the disability community came out in force. And what was proposed to be nearly $1 billion, which includes state funding and then the federal match, got restored. It's about 85, yes. Yep. So Chris's colleague, Rachel, and then David in the back, sister, who is the exec at the Maryland DD Council, played a huge role in that. So we're very grateful to her and many other advocates. So today, we support about 1,000 people daily, and that's anything and everything. We're supporting people in a variety of ways at their home, at their job. The gold standard for us for a job is someone who is working on a company's payroll. They're working in every industry. They are finding meaning. It is not just a job. It's intended to help pair people with what they love to do, what their interests are. And that for us is the gold standard, where they are getting a paycheck directly from that company that is a well above minimum wage, and that it's a job where they're accepted and integrated with all their colleagues. And then on top of that, we have a lot of informal services for families. So for those who have young children with disabilities, a lot of those services come through their school and the local education department. But for those of you that know, when you age out at 21, especially now in Maryland where there's a huge waiting list, there's a bit of a drop off, or a lot of a drop off. So I encourage anyone that has young children with disabilities or family members, you name it, to get connected to an organization like the ARC Baltimore. There are plenty of other peer organizations like us that can help guide you through that transition into adulthood. Okay. We talked a little bit, this slide just says dual approach to support. And when I first started, I was a case manager where all I focused on was direct support. But now, as I'm in my old age, after 20 years, I am realizing the value and the importance of advocacy. And to see 1,000 people come out to Annapolis with 3 days, I think it might even been less than 3 days notice, for a rally when services were being threatened, to see 1,000 people come out and fill Lawyers Mall in 48 hours, let's just say 48 hours notice, is amazing. And that how quickly the legislators learned about the dire need that of these services. This is just going over a little bit of our services. I don't want to go too far down into that, but our goal really is to help support people holistically so that they are able to access their neighborhoods, they're able to get supports for their children, whether that's financial support or it's peer support. We have parent support groups. We have sibling support groups for young children, 3 to 14. So they have a safe space that they can meet with a facilitator and talk about what's it like to be a sibling of a child with a disability. And now we have a new program for older siblings, adult siblings, sorry, called Lasting Bonds. If you are a sibling of someone with a disability, it's a very unique relationship. Oftentimes, as your sibling gets older, you play a support role for your brother or sister with a disability. So there are elements of that it allows for them to discuss, share information, share resources. So it's very important that we have that community. I'm going to finish up quickly. And let's see, one last thing. I said it was our 75th, October 18th. We are having our big celebratory bash at the Maryland Science Center. So you can come and be a kid again, explore the Science Center, but we'll have live music, a DJ set, tons of food, tons of drink. So we hope that you can come and support the ARC Baltimore. And we actually get to use the IMAX for our presentation, which I'm excited about. But thank you so much for having us. I will say I'm grateful to George, Pat, Alex, Marguerite, and the rest of the team. The ARC Baltimore has had a long-standing friendship and relationship with George through his volunteer work, and has brought us in as a partner in this. And I'm grateful to play just a very small role in this project, and it's so nice to see it come to fruition. So thank you all. All right, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is Alex speaking. And also Chris is humble. It's a really essential role and it really supports us. I said you are humble. It's a very essential role, the one that you play. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. So I have the honor of introducing the two artists that are getting ready to come on. Before I do
Alex, can we get some questions before you do that? Do we have time?
We
for it?
don't have time.
Okay.
We're actually running late, and so I wanted to address that. So right now is slotted for the break. Don't worry, a break will happen. We've got two artists that are going to present, and then we will have a break in the hallway, which will actually be a beautiful transition because one of the things I want to uplift is the artwork from both Make Studio and Viz Arts, the exhibition in the hallway, and also folks that are live describing that artwork. But I first want to hand it to two incredible artists. One of the things that I've really advocated for in my role in BCAA as an artist, as an exhibiting artist that is disabled and both is put in positions where I have to advocate for my own access and also for my community's access to my work. It feels so important that we stand by notions of nothing about us without us, which is a deep disability justice framework. Applying access is extremely important. It is the step that it is the move that all our spaces should be making, but you also need to be showing disabled artists. And one of the questions that we've gotten in the past is, who are local disabled artists? And we've been so fortunate to be able to feature a disabled artist every convening that we've had, and then have so many other disabled artists also featured in the exhibition outside. So I hope that you enjoy these next two artists. Tyrone Whedon is going to come up first, and then we're going to have V. Walton.
Is it helpful if I advance your slides for you and watch the time?
Yes, please.
Great, I love it.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Whedon. I'm a Make Studio resident artist and also a BCAA disability consultant. I am an African-American male with a black hat and a Abraham Lincoln beard. with a blue shirt and the black pants. All right, no, not yet. Yeah, okay. I am from Baltimore, born and raised. I used to live in North Avenue a long time ago, but I live in Alhambra and Cold Spring now. I've been an artist for a long time since I was a little kid. My influences are cartoons, comics, and all in between. I have been working for Make Studio since 2012. When I first joined make studio, I was having a fresh start throughout my life. After the things I'm going through these past years, sometimes I was Mr. Know-it-all with way more experience. I am different from the rest of the group. It makes me smarter, but now I'm a grown adult and very wise. I can do public speaking more, doing interviews from video to radio with enough confidence. I could do anything. Being part of Make Studio is a blessing, and you can make any art that helps you express yourself through art. It helps me to use my imagination to create amazing art, whatever is going on in my head. Some are beginners and some are professionals. Making art really does helps with mental health, social issues, current events, therapy, and all things to let our messages throughout. Messages out through art. We also learning something new as we never tried before. It's okay to make mistakes. There's no judgment here. You always do your best and never stop learning. Watching cartoons and movies brought me to my imagination as a child. My first time going to the movie theater with my mother is seeing the first Batman movie. And then hanging out with my father for going to the movies, and the rest is history. I watched movies that gave me a better understanding about the stories, the philosophies, performances, excitement, and the music. Far as music, I watch MTV, VH1, and the Box Music Network on cable TV. I love listening to different music genres, from rock to hip hop to pop music, and many more. Whenever it's pop culture you see on TV, movies, sports, music that impacts you as a child and makes you who you are as a person. Current events that are happening all around the world. When some things that are not right, you have to address it. Yes, I am autistic. Sometimes I'm fast, sometimes I'm slow, but it doesn't stop me from doing things like normal people do to overcome obstacles and adversities in general and life itself. No judgment, power, and acceptance. That's why I feel proud of myself. Observation, information, creativity, learning, artistic. It makes me who I am as a sorry. It makes me who I am as an artist, period. Thank you.
Let's start with this.
All right.
You ready?
Ready.
Awesome.
The artwork of Maggie Smith, it has described as it has a blue background and with a orange or yellow highlights, and she is a professor in a Harry Potter film. My Nivera Monagal. That's the artwork I dedicate to celebrities who passed away. Next. That one is Jimmy Carter. That's in the 90s. At when he was stopped running for office, and he do hard work in building houses for the community. Next one. No, sorry.
We can also skip around.
No need.
Okay.
Okay, tribute to Brian Maxu. Describing the artwork, baseball fans watch and enjoy the ballpark. A baseball player wears the Boyos uniform and ready to throw the ball. The umpire in the back ground observe and watch. The artwork is pencil shade with a little bit of orange colors. I dedicate this artwork to former Baltimore Orioles Brian Maxu. He's a great player. I'm only doing this for Orioles fans. Honoring Cynthia Wise. Describing the artwork, there's 2 panels of the artwork. On the right is the fall background with the tall tree and the African American woman up front. She has black hair and a navy hoodie and black jeans. The powerful words on the front hoodie says, "In this family, no one fights alone," with a pink ribbon that represents Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The next one on the left is the same person but different clothing. She wears a black hat with the Under Armour logo on it, and she wears a pink hoodie with the same logo, along with the light blue jeans and gray tennis shoes, and also a background with different types of pink balloons and silver shades. I made this artwork for someone who lost a friend after losing battle with breast cancer. I gave this artwork for a nice woman that worked with doing the Art High event last May. Next one.
Amazing. I want to choose just one more because we've got about a minute and a half.
I got it.
Yeah, this one?
Yeah.
Sick.
Harry the Spy and Old Golly. Discover the artwork. Yellow background with red letters on the right side. There's 2 white Caucasian female characters. The first one wears a red beret, a red trench coat with black details, and carry a red umbrella. The second character is the little girl with the ponytail hairstyle, and she wears a yellow raincoat with a red hoodie and wears a belt with gadgets and a notebook along with blue jeans and blue Chuck Taylor shoes. I dedicate this artwork to the actress who played Harriet, Michelle Trachtenberg. That's it.
Awesome.
I'll stay.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Now we've got V. Walton coming up. And do you want me to progress? No. Okay, you're good. Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Well, can everyone hear me? Is it okay? All right. I just want to start off saying that I'm full of disabled pride right now. This is my community. This is my community, and I'm so honored to have been collaborating with BCAA this year and being surrounded by such incredible people. So I'm honored to be in this room. I'm a black genderqueer person. In this image, I do not have hair, but before you, I have long cornrows. I am wearing a gray linen shirt and charcoal pants. I am a disabled interdisciplinary artist, and I'm based here in Baltimore, Maryland. And I teach at various institutions teaching sculpture and ceramic art. So I'm excited to share a little bit of my life and my journey and how disability is central to who I am and my advocacy work, and also how it shows up in my work. The image here is a studio image from a year ago. It's me in a black t-shirt with a silver necklace, and there is an unfired sculpture out of clay that's a face with hair that's going upward. So I'm called to the body. The body moves me. It inspires me to make work, and ironically is also the thing in my life that that also brings complication and barriers as well. And so my relationship with disability actually came about through my own interpersonal relationships. I'm the oldest sibling of a brother who is disabled, who has very extensive needs. And so from a young age, I was very aware of difference. I was very aware of what it meant to be Black and disabled. I was very aware of the stigma of being disabled. And so, although I was not in that community at that time myself, I was surrounded by it and I knew it intimately. And so it informed the way I saw the world, informed the way that I saw people, informed the way that I saw barriers that society placed upon others. So when it came to my own journey in sculpture, ironically, my career came about through disability for me. About 8 years ago, I got an onset diagnosis of a rare, aggressive neurological condition, and it completely changed the course of my life. And and really set me on my own personal journey. Before it was I was in this relationship of understanding it through the lens of my family, through the lens of other people that I love, but now moving through the medical industrial complex and all these other and really facing the limitations of ableism for myself. I started to see things even more differently. And at Towson University, I started to pursue ceramic art. And that's when I started making figurative work, really exploring fragmentation, exploring how to talk about chronic pain, invisible disabilities, things you cannot perceive from the outside. And so that became really important to my early work. As I continued in my career, I went to Alfred University for ceramic art, and that is where scale took a huge, became of importance to me. I want to preface a few things. Ceramics is inherently ableist as it exists. And when you're in some of these institutions, there is even more of a pressure to perform and a pressure to make at scale. And I participated. I also succumbed to that, but at the same time, there's this joy in the making, and there's this joy in also making something that's the size of me. And so it became a release, a thing that hurt me and helped me, and is a part of my career now. And so I started to explore disability advocacy through figurative ceramics. And so this is one of the works in that vein called Like a Thorn. It's a life-size ceramic figure of a Black woman who is an amputee of the right arm, and she is sitting with her legs folded, and there's a bed of thorns kind of around the base of her legs. And so with this work, I really wanted people to face their discomfort around difference. I wanted people to, I wanted to present an opportunity to see what is revealed in this interaction. Is it positive? Is it negative? Are you uncomfortable? Like what's happening? And can that be a catalyst for undoing the biases around bodies and around people with disabilities? And so this became really important to me in my work. I also started working outside of ceramic art through the mode of installation And nature became a way of expounding beyond the body, kind of referencing this timelessness that we've always existed. Disabled people have always been here. And so through this mixed media language, I was able to continue to talk about disability. So in this work, it's called Cycle of Life. We are portals to what is unseen. It is an open frame cylinder, like almost tower, that is holding up a deconstructed wheelchair seat. And underneath in the frame, there's greenery that's spilling out, and there's tree roots, real tree roots, on both sides of this scene. And so something that's also really important for me is bringing nature into the gallery, creating. I do like to bring an edge. That's who I am. But I also want to bring moments of rest and contemplation. And so I continue to explore working with natural materials, tree roots and things of that nature, soil and clay. It's interesting. As a ceramicist, clay is my life. But I started exploring clay in an unfired state, and it's kind of taken many versions over the years. So this work is called Release. It's basically 8-foot long tree root with a bed of soil underneath with hemp rope that was covered in porcelain slip. Something that's really been also, that has happened over the years is making work that is smaller. It's for me, someone who's dealing with daily pain, and also someone that's has days where sometimes I don't leave the house. I need to also make work that is not always 7-8 feet. I need to chill out. And so I started abstracting faces and turning them into nature, thinking about Blackness as this thing, as my lived experience, and throughout the diaspora and our relationship to nature, and how it's like ambiguous and beautiful and nuanced. And so I started to turn these heads into root systems. So this is ceramic. It's called Grounded, and basically it's a partial face where the hair would be. It's a root system that kind of sprawls out. Here are other versions of my root heads. This is called What If I Told You Everything Was Connected. It's also ceramic. And I started putting soil on ceramic, which makes me very happy. And so here it's a double-sided. There's a head, one that's laying on its side, and then one that is upright on the opposite side of the sculpture, and the root system is in the middle connecting them. It is this rust terracotta color with some umber coming in with the soil. For me, self-portraiture is also a way that I can talk about myself, talk about my experiences, insert myself into the narrative. And so this is a self-portrait of me when I had no hair called Losing Form, and it's ceramic with unfired clay, soil, and other treatments. And so it's talking about my gender fluidity, and it's also talking about my connection to environment. So it's a bust of me with this gradient from this orange unfired clay to this brown soil on the other side. through installation, I'm really interested in building environments or scenes that are sites of memory. And so I source materials from places. I am outside all the time. And so it's this collection of things that bring you into a space. I'm gonna jump to the next image actually. This is another example of how although ceramic work is central to what I do, I'm also expounding beyond that. And here's an example of an installation where it's a bed of soil with foxtails coming out, and there's this hole in the wall, and the plants are coming out of that space. And it's called Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. And the final image I'll leave you is me in my studio a few weeks ago. It's me reclining in a chair with an afro and a black jumpsuit. I have 3 very large, because I can't stop, ceramic sculptures. One is upright, cylindrical form that morphs into like a bust with branches. There's one that's seated and is the color of unfired, like red earthenware, and has a root system from the chest up to where the neck would be. And then there's this reclining body. These are all life size. There's this reclining body where it starts to become a root system from the neck. And yes. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much for all of those presentations. I'm gonna make it short because we need a break. So see you in 10 minutes at about 3:05. Okay. Okay. All right, so this final section that we're gonna start is on the next steps. So thinking towards the future, thinking about directions we want to build, both the BCAA and the accessibility arts landscape at large in Baltimore. And to start and introduce that, George Sissel is coming up.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is George Sissel. I'm a volunteer with the ARC Baltimore and BCAA. I am a non-disabled white male senior citizen with short hair and beard, wearing a peach shirt and blue trousers and shoes. You've already heard about the background of the year-long Elizabeth Talford Scott Community Initiative that ended last April and evolved into BCAA. I just want to let you know in terms of the process of BCAA's process and procedures. We had to first raise $50,000, of which as of today, we have raised $45,000. Thanks to many patrons and supporters, both here and online. And this budget was to support a 9-month feasibility study and today's public convening. The leadership team and disability consultants attempted to answer the question, what can this community of practitioners do to build on the questions learned and the many successes to jumpstart accessibility as a shared standard of practice? BCAA led monthly in-person and virtual convenings, fostered trust, and identified barriers to accessibility to maintain connections and advance discussions on exhibition design, accessibility features, and inclusive and exemplary practices. Through cross-disability, multiracial, and intergenerational organizing, disabled adults have facilitated training and dialogue to set the stage for today's hybrid public convening. BCAA has learned that it takes more than having partners that believe in and have the desire to implement this vision in Baltimore. We pledge to next raise another $50,000 to create a grant fund for artists and organizations. The guidelines and processes for these grants would result in providing both dollars for accessibility solutions and resources for artists and art spaces. The next 3 months will produce an assessment and report with recommendations for BCA's next steps. We think we will garner a great deal of knowledge and insight through examining different models of access consortiums and by collecting crucial data from today's convening survey. Thank you in advance for your participation in our call for action later on. Thank you.
All right, we now have Hannah Brancato up to talk through Access Consortiums.
All right, thank you. It's been such a awesome day of building power to center people with disabilities and disabled artists in art spaces in Baltimore. And so I'm happy to play a tiny part to report back on some of the research about access consortiums and where BCAA fits in. So I am Hannah Brancato. I am a white woman with wavy red hair and bangs, and I'm wearing a black dress today. I'm a PhD student at University of Maryland in American Studies and researching about the role of activism in art and accessibility of art. So I'm actually an intern, and that's how I come to you today. So my own understanding, I will just mention, about the need for accessibility comes from my work in anti-sexual violence activism, where I learned a lot about trauma-informed spaces and had the good fortune of meeting Robin Marquis, who presented earlier, the keynote. And I am one of many people, I think many in this room, who Robin introduced and pushed to start having conversations about access. So thank you, Robin. And so, okay, so where does BCAA fit into a bigger kind of picture of access consortiums? Let's start here by defining what an access consortium is. An accessibility consortium is a collaborative network or alliance of organizations, professionals, and advocates working together to improve accessibility, inclusion, and support for people with disabilities. And what I'm going to do is just give you a summary of a few other accessibility consortiums in other cities. This is based on the research of Maisie Rubin, who is an undergrad, or was an undergrad student, actually recently graduated, that did some great research, including interviews with many of the speakers that you heard today, and also research just into the kind of consortiums that we're going to look at. So some exemplary citywide access consortiums you see on the screen here are Washington, D.C., DC Arts and Access Network, Philadelphia Artreach, Chicago Cultural Access Collaborative, New York City Museum Arts and Culture Access Consortium, and we have Artreach on there twice, apologies. I will say Artreach is actually the most expansive and robust, that has the most offerings of all of these. Now, what all of these consortiums have in common is that they're addressing some of the barriers that we've heard folks talking about all day that disabled audiences have when they go to see art in museums. One is that the arts should be, but are often not, treated as a civil right. Another is that access is often on demand right now, but it should be, but that places an undue burden on disabled folks. There's limited representation of disabled artists in art exhibitions. There is still quite a lot of institutional ableism that doesn't consider disabled people as a core audience. There are transportation barriers. promotional information is often not accessible, and there needs to be better training for staff. So what these consortiums are doing to address those things, there's some kind of concrete goals, and then I'll talk about the impact. They are doing things like creating access calendars that map out what kinds of events are have accessibility in each city, naming what kinds of accessibility will be available. They are, the New York City example has job listings about accessibility related jobs. Chicago has access equipment loans, and the Philadelphia Artreach includes an agreement between the disability community and arts orgs about the kind of, beyond ADA, how arts organizations are going to be accountable to being more accessible. Many of these are volunteer run. Very few of them actually have paid staff. I think that that's something important to reflect on when we think about the sustainability of these organizations and the impact that they can have. And now I want to come back to Baltimore, and I want us to think about, also I'll mention too that these kinds of projects are growing. Just yesterday, I stumbled upon a project in LA, the Los Angeles Artist Census, which is a kind of artist-run research project, just released an accessibility guide to Los Angeles art spaces. So by pointing all of this out is to say BCAA and all of you here are part of a movement, and I think Robin pointed that out also in their remarks earlier. So, the impact of this work, they create community building and resource sharing among disabled artists, among people with disabilities, and among arts administrators who care about doing better in their institutions. They provide financial support and professional development for disabled artists. They established a unified voice for accountability, which is that individuals might be easy to ignore, but as a group, we're going to be harder to ignore from institutions. This can shift the mindset beyond ADA compliance and make that kind of going beyond compliance not optional, but a priority. And then they establish opportunities for leadership of disabled artists. Now in Baltimore, what we've been doing so far, what BCAA has been doing so far, and I've been lucky to assist in small ways, is a regular professional development gathering that is hosted by organizations. So like that includes some that you've heard about today, Baltimore Museum of Art, Blythe Industries of Maryland. They also have already organized a team of disability consultants, many of whom are here today. You heard from Tyrone. Margaret has been directing us today. I know that we have Kate online. I'm probably missing folks, but thank you. Roxanne is here as well, guiding people. Thank you. And Kate is online, yes. And these folks can be hired by institutions to assist in making organizations more accessible. And BCA also aspires to create the endowed fund that you just heard George talk about. What makes BCAA unique among this landscape of the consortiums that are projected on the screen right now is collaboration between arts organizations, disabled artists, and disability organizations. That's not something that you always see. You certainly don't always see centering artists, which is something that Alex really brought to this project, as was mentioned before. And so the focus on artists is really special to Baltimore and to the efforts here. Also, the focus on visual arts is something unique to Baltimore. There has been a perception that there's a greater need in the visual arts, and that's a good place to start. And I just want to read a quote from Marguerite from the research, and then I'm going to turn it over. Marguerite said, "Professionals in our culture have gone to school and have degrees in training to place the power of people who have lived experience and put them on the same level shifts power." And that's why the centering of disabled artists in BCAA and in the Baltimore version of this Access Consortium, I think is really important to pay attention to. So with the spirit of kind of creativity in mind and thinking about like what kind of world building is possible through these access consortiums, I'm going to turn it over now to Kibibi, who's going to lead us in a further conversation.
Greetings. My name is Kibibi Ajanku. I am an African American woman. I am wearing, my hair is silvery. It was very short last week. It is very long this week. But always in some kind of ripply natural vibration. That is me. I wear glasses. My glasses today look like they have been dipped in an indigo vat. I am an indigo artist, and so my attire is very blue. My fingers, my hands are very blue as an indigo artist because I often am dyeing indigo in the summer. I hope I've given you a visual. There was someone up earlier that described themselves as short at 5'4". I don't like to think of myself as short, but I am 5'2". No barriers, no barriers. I'm a community elder. I am an artist. I am an educator. I am a curator. I say that because all of those things are important in removing barriers. This work here today is about removing barriers, about melting them down, about making sure that the pathways are open so that folk don't stumble, trip, or move into walls. I've always done that. As a performing artist with Sankofa Dance Theater, it was said that the drums were things that people can, who have no sustainable hearing, can feel the vibration, so still hear the drums. The storytelling with the rhythm created a vision for people who did not have vision and sight in the way that other people do. I've always done that. It's second nature. Without being told, without having a way and a path forward. It's just been about making a way for those who need to have a way. Being a mama in the village. And that's why people call me Mama Kibibi. Yeah. So today we've been here discussing in a most important kind of way what our galleries are going to look like. The biggest barrier is the thing that George started with today. He set out to raise $50,000. How many people have that in their pocket? I'm a curator. I'm in a gallery. I barely have $1,000 a month. How many people have that in their pocket? So when we talk about what we're doing and we're imagining what a world with no barriers means, we're really talking about a world with accessible funding. Yeah? Now, the dream has to come first. The work has to go along with the dream. And the money is the thing that moves it out of a niche space into an ongoing, really accessible space. So our marching orders are big. Our marching orders are not for the faint of heart. Our marching orders mean that all together, heart to heart, mind to mind, body to body, and spirit to spirit, we don't need someone to tell us what to do. We do what is right from our core, right? And we can't do all of the things. We've heard that today over and over and over again. But we can do the best we know how to do. That is change, doing the very best you know how to do. Knowing that one step towards change is a step that opens a way for the next person so they can take a step, they can take a step, they can take a step. This is a pay it forward kind of game, right? We've had a rich and robust day. I understand that there have been Q&A opportunities all through the day. But right now, this is the time for any unanswered questions or any questions that you've thought about after you were in a session. Anything that you want to talk about right now, this is your time. This is yours. No barriers. Say nice things, though. And so I'm going to open up the floor to a deep Q&A. I see a hand. I'm going to open up the floor to a deep Q&A, and we're going to go from, right? And the mic will come to you magically.
Hi, is all this? My name is Michelle Marks. I'm the mother of Mara Clausen, the artist Mara Clausen. She's an artist at VisArts and Art Naples and her own studio. I'm wondering where this information is being disseminated. Are there publications or websites or Instagram? I mean, where all these communities, these consortiums are talking to each other so that not everyone's resurrecting the wheel. For example, we would like to publish an experience of how an art residency was made accessible to an artist with disabilities and those sorts of things.
I'm hoping other voices will jump in, but I am going to say that you've identified a really big problem. You know, I have an art gallery that I curate for, and I have to make it up as I go sometimes, oftentimes. If I'm lucky, there's something that has been an example for me to follow. So right now, we're just all in this thing trying to make as many waves and ways as we can. The collection is coming because we're doing the work. There we go. Come on.
Come. All right, here we go. This is Alex speaking. Part of the BCAA leadership and still a white trans person that's sitting on their walker right now. And so what I want to say to that is just a plug to one of the places where we're doing this cross-pollination and trying to build these resources is at our monthly convenings. These are things that we're trying to build funding so we can keep doing in the future. But the first step to start connecting and to actually start building an access consortium is to sign up for our listserv. And so getting on the email chain so that we can also start building with you. Great, short and sweet.
Stay in contract.
And can I say how to sign up for the email list? Yes. So there's two ways today to sign up for the email list. One is to physically just write it down outside, but also you can fill out our survey, which there will be a QR code to at the end. And there's also a QR code in your program to fill out the survey, and it'll ask you if you want to get added to the email list. Yes, there are physical copies as well.
So if you feel this wave, we are waving. We're starting a tsunami, hopefully, of accessibility for the arts and beyond. Yes.
My mask down at the talk. So I would just like to say, I've been doing a lot of research of what happened before all this accessibility, which has been it's been a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but it's been good for me to understand this. I've been doing a lot of research on institutions and how they worked because I want to understand history in a more complex way rather than a simple way, because a lot of times it gets misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to know, have you ever heard of Crownsville? Because often that gets lost in the thing. If you haven't heard of Crownsville, have you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, I know. And unfortunately, it's horrible, but something we have to memorialize to understand that that's something that just is part of our history.
Mm-hmm. Memorializing these things is a way of looking at them, but I prefer to think of it as understanding the past so that we can do a better job in the present and open a way for a better tomorrow. The past is very, very important in making sure we have an open tomorrow. Forward motion is just as important in making sure we have a better tomorrow. So history is a thing, and I appreciate you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Or comments? Yes. Oh, we're running. We're running. We're getting to you. No, no, no. We're getting there.
Thank you. Hi, oh gosh, public speaking. My name is Caroline, and my question is about like access with tech and like technology, because I noticed that there's a lot of QR codes and a lot of like scan this with your smartphone. And I know that, you know, what is it? Planned obsolescence of smartphones means things that even if you have one, but it's not always like the most recent model, things can stop functioning. But also we have people in the community, communities plural, who don't have smartphones. And I was curious how we can connect and engage with people who don't have access to the tech that we need before QR codes and other internet-based.
You know, tech is this double-edged sword. It really is a double-edged sword. We've got things going on here. We've got a very analog sign language thing. We cannot do without that. We also have AI-generated words on a screen. That's a way forward. I talked about dance and drum, right? I talked about things that move forward. We've been able to move in both worlds, and I think we have to move in both worlds. Both are limited and have very limiting things going on, but sign up for that monthly situation so that we can keep talking and keep changing, right? I would like to know if there are any questions from the
Kibibi?
virtual world.
Hi, I just wanted to let the young person know that there are people that will help you fill out the survey. And
Yes.
on that survey, you can put your information. So that's one way to connect so that somebody can get back with you.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions? I want to make sure that our virtual listeners are, we've got one person here, and then if there are any messages from the virtual world.
Actually, this is just a shout out to our human being cart captioner today, Sammy. So sometimes the captions are AI generated, but today they are generated by a human being typing really, really fast.
So as one person that does two fingers, I have a very great appreciation for that. Do we have questions from the virtual world?
Hello, this
Hello.
is Wanda,
Uh-huh.
the BCAA Tech Access Doula. We do not actually have any questions. I've been trying to get people to speak up, but I don't have any questions or comments yet, just to let you know. If we do, I'll chime in.
All right.
Oh, someone might have one.
Might.
Give me 1 minute. Okay. Did we have another question in person?
We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
I think I can take, though, the last question. I'm pretty certain that we need to move on. I know we're behind time, and I got the time monitored quite a little while ago, the time nudge a little while ago. So without wanting to rush anybody, we're rushing. Is there any one last question from the house? Right there.
Hi, my name is Eliza Mott. I'm a white lady with glasses. I work at MICA in the disabilities department, and we'd be really interested in partnering with any folks that are here. I know there's, of course, other ways to follow up after, but I just wanted to say publicly, maybe a direct question to you, but also just to all that are here, if there's ways that you'd like to partner, I'd be super excited to talk to anyone about that.
We would love for you to get connected in the system, make sure you're signed up, and make sure that you do that so that we then have organizational connection and not a lot of splintering, right? We want to all work out on our own and in tandem at the same time. So
awesome.
We love that you're in the house. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. If that is not, shall I move? Can I move on?
Yeah, let's go.
They say I can move on. I hope that we've done good.
Are they moving?
Hi, I am Sheri Parks, and this is the onslaught of the 5'2" people. I am also 5'2". I'm a African-American woman. My skin right now, this time of year, is copper colored, I think. I am wearing a blue and white jumpsuit, and my hair is silver and black and gray, curly, short. Okay, you got the picture now? Kind of, yeah, right. And the organizers, I think, today are brilliant because yes. Because my job is to see in the same way that Marguerite is brilliant at seeing what's been going on, kind of below the surface and bringing it forward. And what they just did is that Kibibi raised you up, and I'm going to bring you home. That's exactly what is about to happen. And it's been interesting because there are some words that have not been used today but have been demonstrated. And one of those is movement. Do you feel like you're in the middle of a movement? Maybe like the first third of a movement? Do you feel that you are engaged in cultural change? And you used the word a minute ago that maybe it's a little overwhelming. Maybe that's why we don't use that word, but that's what's happening now. Cultural change is hard. And so, but what the organizers have done today and what they've done in previous meetings is to break it down in digestible chunks. That if you notice today was kind of like a funnel, which makes my job actually pretty easy, where you kind of start big and you come down and you come down, and one of the last things you saw was the brilliance of the artists, of the individual artists. And so you begin to get the idea that maybe you could do this. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So one of the things that Robin said today was to compliment everybody in this room of being at the forefront of the movement. Someone who has an international perspective says, I'm seeing things in Baltimore that I'm not seeing in other places. One, you should congratulate yourselves, but also understand that that's important work. That's brave work. But notice what you're also doing is there's a process that I've seen over and over today of showcasing the work and interrogating it at the same time. People are critiquing their own work. They're saying, we're doing this, and we think this is pretty good. At the same time, they're critiquing their own work. So the critique isn't coming from other people; it's coming from themselves. And the BMA did that of going through and saying, "This is what we're doing." And you notice there's a process that is both deepening the work and broadening. Is broadening a word? Broadening the work at the same time of saying, we need more people to think about this. We need more people to see this. We need people to do this. But the work is so fine that you're having to notice little things. This morning, when I knew I was going to have to describe my jumpsuit, I thought, is it blue and white or is it gray and white? And it's not, I've worn it a number of times, never thought about it. But yes, the work is at that level. At the same time, you want more and more people to see that and interrogate themselves, right? And so people are, rather than saying, look, folks, you're going to have to start interrogating yourself and everything you do. They've just been showing it over and over again until it becomes habit. And you can tell for whom it's habit. I've been to a couple of their events. You can tell for whom it's habit and people who are just beginning to try to think about going through the world and experience it. But one thing that's very clear, and Marguerite made this, you can tell I'm a huge Marguerite fan. Yeah, right. Join the club. Get behind Alex. Right. Is that when she said that art and beauty helped her to live, that we often think of beauty and art as nice. We often don't think of it as essential, as necessary, as I believe a human right. Right? And that means that a movement that promotes that human right for people who have been unseen for a long time is brave and important work. So, and actually Hannah did part of my job. Because she brought you through some of the steps of the work that they've done, bringing in consultants, doing their research, doing that work, showcasing and critiquing at the same time. Also, not just saying we need to build partners, but showing you how the partnerships work. There are some people today who are in this work who talk to each other for the first time today. I saw it. Part of my job was to kind of go around and watch. But building those partnerships, that community, is part of the work. So, are there any gaps that you see in that we need to be doing? If so, you can also write them down. I know it's hard to then critique from the audience in this event, but and you're going to hear this one more time after me. What's essential here is two things. Do you think this work should continue? If so, let us know right now. Okay. That was one of my marching orders, right? Was to find out that do people want the work to continue? Are you okay with the way in which the work has gone heretofore? Then let me know. Yes? Okay. Okay. All right. And do they have your permission to continue to assertively raise funds? Yeah. All right. I think my work here is done, right?
Good afternoon. Oh, it's yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Sheri. I am going to steal Sheri's description. I'm copper colored, about 5'7". I am an African American male, a shaved head with a black mustache. I'm wearing a white shirt and white pants and tan sandals. I was given the great opportunity to give some closing remarks, and you can thank the following people: George Sissel, Pat Holly, Marguerite Woods, and Alex Valeso. If you were here from the very beginning, you were here to hear Liz Sunderman-Zinger. She pointed out that this coverage for today is not just in this room, it's beyond this room, it's actually statewide. So this reach has potential to impact a lot of people. Throughout the program, I picked up some gems about the importance of accessibility. And I think we should adopt this mantra: more access for disabled people is more access for all people. That should be the mantra. Marguerite Woods reminded me that within the vision world, blindness is in varying stages of visibility. Also, one can experience blindness at different stages of life. Not everyone is born blind. This goes for other disabilities as well. Someone can experience a physical disability from birth, or they can acquire this disability later on in life. So if you consider yourself to be an abled person right now in this stage of your life, just know that at any point, you might need the help from this community. Watching the film, Seeing Without Sight by the filmmaker Alyscia Cunningham, we met some incredible people who shared insights. Meredith Day said, "There's so many ways to interpret beauty Why stick with just one? I thought that was a great point. More than one presenter in that film pointed out how people often perceive the disabled person as incapable. Why can't a counselor be blind? We heard from one presenter who was, it was suggested to her that because she was a blind person, she couldn't be a counselor. Fortunately, she refuted that and she became a counselor very successfully. Speaking of reimagined, our keynote speaker, Robin Marquis, helped us to envision a museum designed by Black people for everyone. Just imagine, consider creating a museum space by people who cannot see, where visitors can identify and experience and receive information simultaneously. We heard from representatives from art spaces, Coppin State, BMA, the Peel, MICA, and they gave us a broad range of accessibility items. One institution cannot meet all the needs, but when attention is given to accessibility on any level, when something concrete is done, it is appreciated. I think that's something that we need to remember. It was also mentioned that accessibility planning is not an add-on. This has to be done from the very beginning, whether it's a tour, labels, hands-on workshop, or a tactile experience. We heard from two Chris's from accessibility and disability organizations. One is the Director of Engagement for Maryland Development Disabilities Council. The other is the Chief Advancement Officer for the ARC. Both showed how day-to-day operations of access show up in our social fabric. They are advocates for designing playgrounds that are inclusive, advocating for plain language, which is now an initiative, and paying attention to people in the workforce. It was a pleasure seeing the artworks, the paintings and sculpture by artists Tyrone Whedon and V. Walton. And here's my profound statement about that. Artists make art. That's what they do. Hannah Brancato demonstrated that accessibility work is indeed a movement. It's not a small movement, and it's not for the faint. And thanks to Kibibi Ajanku and Sheri Parks, I'm sorry, Sheri, I knew that. Sheri Parks. They both grounded us in the reality of accessibility work. This is serious work, and it's not for the faint. Thank you for joining us today. This is what we call in Washington, D.C., a think tank. Thank you.
This is a closing 5 minutes to just acknowledge and thank. We thank our major supporters, Anonymous, Robbie and Kevin Apperson, Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts, Lois and Irving Blum Foundation, our fiscal sponsor, the ARC Baltimore and the ARC Maryland. Today's public convening has been made possible by the generosity of the Enoch Pratt Free Library. Let's give a hand. What a beautiful collaboration we have experienced today and planning this. Make Studio and Friends of BCAA, the list in your program includes, as of July 1st, those whose $10 to $10,000 gifts made today possible. We thank our anonymous donor whose gift to support BCAA will allow us to also use $5,000 of their gift to launch the $50,000 BCAA Access Grant Fund for artists and organizations to strengthen their access practices over the next year. Let's have a cheer on that too. So the last things, we invite you to be a BCAA partner and to join us in our dreams and our work going forward in 3 ways. 1, please fill out the survey to help BCAA collect important data for our final report. The survey is available on paper or by a QR code in your program or on the table. Participate in our September partner convening at Wide Angle Youth Media on September 19th from 3 to 5 p.m. and attend future convenings to build community, continue learning, and strengthening our access, knowledge, and skills. Support, finally, the Access Grant Fund. Use the QR code in your program. A few $1,000s would be added to the fund if every one of our 200 registrants donates $10 to $25 today. We thank you so much for your energy, your attention, your joy, and your participation today. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we're done. Please enjoy the artwork in the hallway. Excited to be in touch, excited to be in partnership, excited to be in this work with you.